If she's doing this, you're on her mind more than you realize. Psychology tricks. Sometimes the deepest feelings are the ones never spoken. Every man reaches a point where something feels different. The messages slow down, the silence gets longer, and yet, instead of fading, her presence feels stronger in your mind. That's not coincidence, and it's not wishful thinking. Most men misunderstand this phase completely. They assume interest only exists when a woman is visible, expressive, or chasing. If she's not reaching out, they conclude she's forgotten them. But attraction doesn't disappear just because it goes quiet. In fact, that's often when it intensifies. Here's what many men don't realize about female psychology. A woman doesn't always process emotions outwardly. When she pulls back, it's often because she's trying to regain control over feelings that run deeper than she expected. Silence isn't absence, it's internal conflict. When a woman thinks she should be over you, but finds herself replaying conversations, remembering how you made her feel, or sensing your presence without explanation, that's when you're truly on her mind. The distance becomes the space where emotions echo the loudest. Men are trained to watch behavior. Women operate through emotional undercurrents, and when those emotions are triggered by a man, they don't always come out as words or actions. They surface in subtle shifts, energy, hesitation, and unspoken tension. That's the truth most men miss. When a woman can't fully let go, she doesn't announce it. She reveals it quietly, in ways only someone paying attention would notice. 1. She expresses emotion indirectly. She expresses emotion indirectly, and that is where most men miss the signal, because it never shows up as a confession or a dramatic speech. It shows up in subtle shifts. You feel more than you see. Tiny changes in tone, timing, and behavior that look harmless on the surface but carry serious emotional weight underneath. And you must understand this if you want clarity instead of confusion. She won't say, "I miss you," not because she doesn't feel it, but because her mind is negotiating with her heart, and when that happens, emotion leaks out sideways. It shows up when she checks your social media without interacting, when she suddenly mirrors your humor, when she brings up old memories as if they just wandered into her thoughts, when her energy changes around you for no obvious reason. Don't ignore these moments. Be observant. That is where her truth lives. Female psychology works differently than most men expect because women don't attach deeply through logic or declarations. They attach through emotional imprinting. And once a feeling is imprinted, it doesn't fade easily. That is why she may act composed on the outside while experiencing emotional turbulence underneath. She might reply later than usual, then suddenly engage intensely. She might pull back, then lean in unexpectedly. Don't assume inconsistency means disinterest. Be calm. You must realize this is often the sign of someone trying to manage feelings she didn't plan to have. Psychology tricks won't help you if you don't first understand how emotional memory works. A woman doesn't keep thinking about a man because he said the right words or had the right look. She keeps thinking because of how she felt in his presence, how her nervous system responded, how time felt different, how her guard softened without effort. That feeling becomes a reference point, and once it's there, her mind quietly compares every new interaction to it. She may not want to, but the comparison happens anyway. That is why she may seem distant with others or oddly reflective after seeing you. Be steady. Don't chase reactions. Let the contrast speak for you. If she's thinking about you nonstop, it's because you created a feeling she hasn't been able to recreate, not because you tried to impress her, but because you allowed her to feel seen, safe, energized, or understood in a way that lingered. That is how to fall in love really works, and it's rarely loud. It's internal. It's persistent. It's quiet. Female psychology responds to emotional depth, not pressure. And when a woman feels something deeply, she often tries to hide it from herself first. That's why her behavior may include small slips she didn't intend, moments where her attention drifts back to you, questions that seem casual but aren't, reactions that arrive faster than logic can catch them. Don't confront her about it. Don't demand clarity. Be grounded. Let her emotional process unfold naturally. Psychology tricks are not about manipulation. They're about awareness, about recognizing that what looks small on the surface can be an emotional earthquake underneath. When she indirectly expresses emotion, she is protecting herself while still staying connected, testing whether the feeling is safe to hold. You must understand this if you want to maintain attraction without tension. A man who stays centered, observant, and emotionally steady becomes the place her thoughts return to, because he doesn't force her to explain what she hasn't finished understanding herself. That is powerful. That is rare. And that is why she keeps thinking about you. Don't overtalk. Don't overanalyze. Be present. Be consistent. Let the feeling remain intact. In female psychology, the man who doesn't rush the emotion often becomes the one the emotion can't let go of. And that is how to fall in love without ever needing to say it out loud. 2. Emotional imprinting and mental replay. Emotional imprinting is the part most men never see, yet it is the part that quietly decides everything, because if you triggered that emotional blueprint in her, intentionally or not, she will keep circling back to you in her mind like a song she can't stop replaying, a melody that shows up when she's driving, when she's alone at night, when she's laughing with friends and suddenly goes quiet, even when she wants to move on, even when she tells herself she should, even when she looks someone in the eye and says she's done. Don't misunderstand this. Be clear. That is not obsession. That is emotional memory doing its job. A woman's mind replays feelings, not faces, and when a feeling is strong enough, it loops. You must understand this if you want to read the silence correctly, because the signs she's thinking about you are not obvious, not loud, not dramatic, and not designed for attention. They are subtle, instinctive, and deeply human. They live in pauses, delays, small changes in rhythm. She might go quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because the memory is active. She might act composed, because she's managing the replay internally. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't demand reassurance. Be steady. A high-value man knows that silence is often the loudest confirmation. Emotional imprinting happens when a woman feels something she didn't expect to feel, something that bypassed her logic and landed straight in her nervous system. That could be the way you listened without fixing, the way you held eye contact without pressure, the way you didn't chase her approval, yet still made her feel chosen. That is masculine energy at its most grounded form, calm, present, unforced. You didn't need to perform, you didn't need to impress, you simply showed up aligned, and that is why the replay starts. She doesn't sit there thinking, I miss him. She feels a familiar warmth, a certain steadiness, a comparison she never meant to make. Be aware. This is how you attract women without trying to convince them of anything. The mind circles back to what felt safe and alive at the same time. The reason these signs are easy to miss is because they don't come with announcements. She won't send long messages explaining her inner world. She won't confess the replay. Instead, she may ask casual questions that don't sound casual. She may resurface memories as if they just happened to cross her mind. She may keep tabs from a distance while telling herself it means nothing. Don't confront it. Be observant. You must let the emotional echo do its work. A high-value man doesn't interrupt emotional processing. He allows it. That patience amplifies attraction more than words ever could. Emotional replay is not something she controls. It's something her mind does when a feeling hasn't been replaced. And replacement is rare. That's the part most men don't realize. A woman doesn't move on just because time passes. She moves on when a new emotional experience genuinely outweighs the old one. Until then, the song keeps playing. Masculine energy, when it's calm and self-contained, becomes the standard her mind measures against. That's why she may date others, yet feel disconnected. That's why she may smile, yet feel something missing. Don't compete. Be centered. That is how you stay present in her thoughts, without ever needing to ask. This is also why silence from her doesn't mean absence of feeling. Sometimes it means the feeling is active enough that she doesn't trust herself to express it cleanly. Be patient. You must resist the urge to chase clarity when ambiguity is actually confirmation. The man who understands emotional imprinting understands power without force. He understands that attraction grows in space, not pressure. High-value man energy isn't loud. It doesn't seek validation. It trusts the imprint. And when you live from that place, you naturally attract women who feel before they explain. Emotional replay is her mind trying to make sense of an experience that changed her internal baseline. You didn't just pass through her life, you altered a reference point. That is why the signs are quiet. That is why they're easy to misread. And that is why once you see them, you will never look at her silence the same way again. If this hit home, don't just scroll past it. Drop a comment right now and claim this truth. Silence doesn't mean I'm forgotten. It means I left a mark. Like the video, subscribe for more unshakable psychological insight, and remember this every day. What lingers in the mind is never accidental. 3. Silence as observation, not absence. Silence is not absence, and this is where seasoned men must sharpen their perception, because when a woman becomes emotionally activated by you, her first move is rarely a message or a call. It is attention, it is observation, it is quiet focus and understanding. This changes how you move through modern relationships with confidence and calm. She watches patterns, she studies your rhythm, she notices when you appear and when you disappear. She replays conversations in her mind, not because she is unsure, but because she is measuring meaning. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So her silence is often full of thought, full of curiosity, full of emotional calculation, not empty space. Men who lack experience panic in silence. They rush, they overinterpret, they try to force clarity, but men guided by Old Stoic wisdom recognize that silence is data. Silence is information. Silence is a signal to remain grounded because attraction often grows quietly before it ever speaks out loud. In today's world of instant replies and constant validation, silence feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is where mastery begins. Epictetus said it plainly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, meaning you do not chase reassurance. You let time reveal truth. She does not reach out first because she protects her dignity, she protects her emotional investment, and she observes how you handle uncertainty because your response to silence tells her everything about your inner structure. This is where an iron mind separates itself from anxious reaction, because you understand that attraction is not built through pressure. It is built through presence, consistency, and emotional stability. Modern life tempts men to monitor every notification, to analyze every delay. But Stoicism, when moments come when you stop reacting and start leading yourself, when you remain centered, productive, focused on your mission, because confidence is loud even when you say nothing. Remember the words of Seneca: he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. And this applies perfectly here, because imagined rejection drains energy that should be invested in growth, health, and purpose. Silence invites you to observe yourself as much as her, to see whether you are driven by fear or guided by discipline. And discipline is attractive because it signals maturity, self-respect, and emotional safety. Women sense when a man is anchored, when his life is full, when his attention is not begging for validation, and that quiet strength activates curiosity far more than constant availability. This is not a game. It is a principle. Old Stoic wisdom teaches us that what you control is your response, your actions, your standards, not someone else's timing. Repeat this until it settles in your bones. Silence is observation. Silence is evaluation. Silence is not rejection. Hold your frame. Live well. Train your body. Sharpen your mind. Build your work. Nurture your values. Because Stoicism win is not about waiting for messages. It is about becoming a man whose life speaks before he does. In modern relationships, clarity comes faster to men who do not chase it, and power comes to those who do not rush it. Develop an iron mind that sees silence as neutral, as space, as possibility, because the man who masters his reactions masters his life, and the man who masters his life becomes unforgettable without trying. 4. Emotional safety and attachment. Emotional safety is the quiet force that rewires attachment, and it's where curiosity turns into focus, and focus slowly turns into something deeper. Because obsession doesn't begin with drama or desire, but with a realization that lands softly and then refuses to leave. She felt safe with you in a way she doesn't feel with most men. Not safe like guarded or sheltered, but safe like understood. Safe like her words didn't need translation. Safe like her pauses were allowed to breathe. Safe like she could be fully present without performing. And when that happens, something subtle clicks inside her mind. A hidden door opens, and she recognizes a version of herself that only shows up around you, which is why this connection lingers long after conversations end and silence begins. Because female psychology doesn't anchor to moments, it anchors to states of being, and you became a state she didn't know she was missing. Don't confuse this with intensity. Be clear about that. This is not about pressure or pursuit. That is noise. This is about resonance, and resonance is what makes her replay small interactions. Not the flashy ones, but the calm ones. The ones where she felt seen without being inspected. Where she could share a thought and not brace for correction. Where she didn't feel rushed to impress or shrink to be accepted. And when a woman experiences that kind of emotional safety, her nervous system remembers it like a favorite song, playing it quietly in the background even when she tries to move on. Because the mind may decide to leave, but the body keeps score. And that is why she doesn't detach cleanly or quickly. That is why distance doesn't erase you. It often sharpens you. And this is one of those psychology tricks most men never learn because it doesn't look like a trick at all. It looks like calm confidence, steady listening, and grounded presence. Be honest with yourself. Most connections fail not because of a lack of attraction, but because of a lack of emotional shelter. And you offered shelter without making promises, which is powerful because you didn't try to fix her or define her. You allowed her to unfold. And in female psychology, that signals trust, not dependency, depth, not pressure. And when she senses that you can hold space without trying to control it, her mind begins to associate you with relief, clarity, and emotional rest. And that association is hard to overwrite, no matter how busy life gets or how many new faces appear, because novelty fades, but safety imprints. Don't chase that imprint. Don't demand it. Be steady. That is the point. Because the more natural it felt, the more permanent it became. And this is where many men misunderstand how to fall in love, thinking it's about saying the right thing at the right time, when in reality it's about being the place her thoughts can land without friction. The place where she doesn't have to defend her feelings or explain her silence. And once a woman experiences that, she doesn't stop thinking about you overnight, even if she decides to step away for practical reasons, even if timing gets messy, even if distance grows. Her mind keeps checking back in, not with longing alone, but with comparison, quietly asking, do I feel as at ease here as I did there? And most of the time, the answer is no, because emotional safety is rare, and rarity creates value without effort. Be aware. This isn't about manipulation. Don't twist it into that. Psychology tricks only work when they are rooted in authenticity, and authenticity is what made her feel understood, not strategy, not performance. And that's why the connection feels heavier in memory than it ever looked from the outside, because what you shared wasn't loud, it was deep. And depth doesn't announce itself, it settles, and once it settles, it's difficult to remove. You must understand this clearly. When she felt seen by you, she felt permission to be whole. And that is addictive in the most human sense of the word. Not unhealthy, not frantic, just deeply anchoring. And this is why, even after she walks away, her thoughts lag behind, replaying moments, conversations, even silences, because those moments represented a version of herself she felt good inhabiting. And losing access to that feels like losing a room in a house she just discovered. And this is how female psychology bonds, not through fireworks alone, but through familiarity that feels safe and expansive at the same time. Be calm about it. Don't rush to label it. Don't corner it with expectations. Let it breathe, because pressure collapses safety, and curiosity strengthens it. And if she returns emotionally before she returns physically, that's not an accident. That's the mind following the body's memory of peace. That is why understanding how to fall in love has less to do with persuasion and more to do with presence. Because presence tells her without words, you are allowed to be here as you are. And that message echoes long after you stop speaking, long after she stops seeing you. And that echo is what keeps you on her mind more than you realize. Because you weren't just a man in her life. You were a feeling, and feelings rooted in emotional safety don't fade. They wait, they resurface, and they quietly redefine what she looks for next, which is why psychology tricks that focus on games miss the point, why female psychology responds to steadiness over spectacle, and why How to Fall in Love begins with one simple truth. Be the place where calm and understanding meet, and let everything else unfold naturally. 5. Behavioral shifts and internal conflict. Behavioral shifts are where the real story lives, not in what she shows you, but in what happens quietly inside her when no one is watching. Her distance means nothing. The silence means nothing. The lack of messages means nothing. Don't mistake absence for indifference. Be sharper than that. What matters is what she's doing when you're not in her line of sight, when the day slows down, when her phone is face down, when her mind drifts without permission. That is where truth shows up. There's a very specific moment in a woman's inner world when you begin to occupy more space than you realize, and it almost never arrives with fireworks or bold gestures. You must understand this clearly. It begins small. A tone you use that felt calm instead of rushed. A word you chose that landed softer than expected. A look you gave that didn't ask for anything but still held attention. Something subtle, almost forgettable to you, but not to her. And that moment lingers, not because it was intense, but because it was unexpected, because it disrupted her emotional rhythm without forcing it. And that disruption is where internal conflict begins. She starts asking herself questions she didn't plan on asking. Why did that stay with me? Why did that feel different? Why am I replaying this now? Don't chase those questions. Be steady. That is the mark of a high-value man, someone who doesn't react to surface behavior, but understands the deeper process unfolding underneath. While many men panic at silence, you must recognize that silence is often when attraction reorganizes itself. This is where masculine energy does its real work, not through pressure, but through grounded presence that doesn't demand immediate proof. She may pull back externally while moving closer internally. That contrast confuses men who only measure interest by visible effort, but attraction doesn't always announce itself. It incubates. And the incubation phase is quiet. That's when she's thinking about you while doing ordinary things, driving, cooking, folding laundry, when your presence sneaks into her mind without invitation. That's when she compares how she felt around you to how she feels now. And that comparison is rarely flattering to the present moment. Don't interrupt that process. Don't over-message. Don't explain yourself. Be consistent in who you are, not in how often you appear. That consistency is how a high-value man attracts women without chasing them, because he doesn't confuse motion with progress. Internal conflict grows when she feels calm around you, but unsettled without you. When she can't logically explain why your absence feels louder than other men's presence. And this has nothing to do with control or performance. Avoid thinking that way. This is about how masculine energy creates emotional gravity through clarity and restraint. You didn't overwhelm her. You didn't impress her loudly. You simply showed up as yourself, grounded, observant, and self-contained. And that allowed her to relax into the moment without guarding it. That relaxation is what her mind returns to later. Be aware of this. Most men try to attract women by adding more words, more attention, more reassurance. You must do the opposite. Do less, but be solid. That is where attraction deepens. When she replays that small moment, she's not replaying you trying. She's replaying how she felt, safe, seen, calm, curious. And once a woman associates you with those internal states, she doesn't need constant reminders of your existence. Her mind does the work for you. That's why distance isn't the enemy, desperation is. Silence isn't the problem, inconsistency is. You must trust the process you set in motion by being authentic and grounded. This is how a high-value man operates. He doesn't rush emotional outcomes. He allows them to mature. And maturity is attractive because it signals stability, not control, confidence without noise. When her internal conflict grows, she may test the distance, not to push you away, but to see if the feeling fades. Often, it doesn't. It sharpens. That's when she realizes you're on her mind more than she planned, not because you demanded space there, but because you earned it by not needing it. This is how masculine energy works at its best: quiet, steady, unforced. If you want to attract women, stop measuring success by messages and responses and start understanding psychology tricks that are rooted in patience and self-respect. Be the man who doesn't react emotionally to every shift. Be the man who remains centered regardless of attention. That is not indifference. That is strength expressed calmly. And calm strength is what stays with her long after the moment has passed, long after the conversation ends, long after you're no longer in front of her. Because what she felt wasn't temporary excitement, it was alignment. And alignment doesn't disappear quickly. It waits, it observes, and it quietly pulls her thoughts back to you again and again until she understands why. If this opened your eyes like the video, share it with someone who needs clarity, and subscribe for more psychology-backed insight. To lock this lesson in and interact with the channel, comment this below. It's not the silence that matters, it's the small moments she can't stop replaying. Drop that comment now and let me know you're paying attention. 6. Withdrawal as emotional overwhelm. When a woman withdraws, don't rush to label it as loss of interest, because in many cases it's the opposite, and this is where seasoned understanding separates calm confidence from needless worry. Withdrawal often signals emotional overwhelm, the moment when feelings arrive faster than logic can organize them, when attraction stops being abstract and starts to feel personal, risky, and real. So she watches quietly, checks your social media without leaving a trace, pulls back not to escape you, but to steady herself, because intensity creates pressure, and pressure demands space. This is not mystery, it's psychology, and men who understand it move through relationships with an iron mind, steady and unshaken, while others spiral into overthinking, chasing, and self-doubt. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught in Old Stoic wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And here is the instruction. Do not react emotionally to silence. Do not fill the gap with anxious messages. Do not demand reassurance, because calm presence is louder than any words you could send. Restraint signals security, and security is magnetic in modern life, where attention is cheap and emotional stability is rare. When she pulls back because emotions feel too fast, too deep, or too meaningful, your job is not to pull harder, but to hold your ground, to remain consistent, composed, and self-directed, because confidence without pressure gives her room to breathe and room to choose, and choice is where genuine connection grows. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do, and what you must be here is centered, purposeful, and unmoved by temporary silence, because a man who can tolerate uncertainty without collapsing into reaction communicates value without speaking." This is Stoicism win in action, applied not as theory, but as lived behavior. In today's world of instant replies and constant validation, withdrawal feels louder than it really is. Yet mature men understand that emotions don't move in straight lines. They surge, retreat, and recalibrate. And when her feelings start to matter, her mind seeks safety, not distance. So she pauses to regain control, to see if the feeling passes, to see if you remain the same man, whether she's close or quiet. That's the test, and passing it requires an iron mind, the ability to stay grounded in your mission, your work, your health, your purpose, because a man absorbed in his own direction radiates stability, and stability calms emotional overwhelm. Seneca warned in Old Stoic wisdom, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." and most men suffer here because they invent rejection where there is reflection, loss where there is processing. But the experienced man reads patterns, not impulses, and understands that attraction mixed with fear creates hesitation, not disappearance. This is where instruction becomes action. Maintain steady communication without escalation. Lead with clarity when you speak. Then return to your life without hovering, because presence without pursuit communicates assurance, and assurance gives her nervous system a signal of safety, not pressure. Modern psychology agrees with this ancient insight. Emotional intensity triggers self-protection, and space allows emotions to settle into clarity. So when you remain calm, you become the calm she subconsciously associates with you. Repeat this truth until it sticks. Withdrawal does not equal indifference. Silence does not equal rejection. And composure always outperforms chasing. This is Stoicism win, not by suppressing emotion, but by mastering response. William James once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And your choice here is simple and strong. Choose patience over panic, structure over speculation, and self-respect over impulsive reassurance seeking. Live your schedule, train your body, advance your goals, show up as planned. Let consistency speak, let silence do its work." This is old Stoic wisdom applied to dating in a modern world, where men who remain centered win quietly and reliably. And when her emotions settle, when curiosity outweighs fear, when safety replaces overwhelm, she returns not because you chased, but because you didn't need to, because the man who stood firm without pressure demonstrated leadership of self, and self-leadership is always attractive. Internalize this, practice it, let it guide you. Build the iron mind that observes, understands, and acts with precision. This is Stoicism win at its most practical. Calm is not passive. Calm is power. 7. Curiosity, comparison, and emotional gravity. Here's the truth most men don't hear often enough, and you must listen closely, because when a woman has you on her mind more than she realizes, the signs are subtle, psychological, and quietly powerful, not loud or dramatic. And the first signal, the deepest one, is curiosity. Because when a woman is emotionally invested, her curiosity doesn't shout. It leans in, it watches, it notices, it remembers. She starts caring about the small details of your life, not because she's searching for control or reassurance, but because her mind has made you relevant, meaningful, emotionally weighted. She wonders how your day went, what shaped your opinions, why you smile a certain way, what made you who you are. And that kind of curiosity is not forced. It is gravity. It happens when her inner world has made space for you. So don't ignore this. Don't dismiss it as friendliness. Be aware. Because curiosity is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks in female psychology, and it often signals the early stages of how to fall in love without either person saying a word. And then something even more telling begins to happen: comparison. Quiet comparison. Not spoken aloud, not calculated, but automatic. Because once her mind has emotionally bookmarked you, every other man she encounters is unconsciously measured against the way you make her feel. Not your looks, not your status, not your achievements, but the emotional resonance you create, the calm you bring, the interest you spark, the way conversations flow or linger. And this isn't something she decides to do. It's something her mind does for her. That is how emotional attachment forms. That is how attraction deepens. And you must understand this clearly, because comparison doesn't mean dissatisfaction with others. It means you have become a reference point. And in female psychology, becoming the reference point is one of the strongest indicators that you matter far more than you think. So don't rush it. Don't pressure it. Don't demand clarity. Be steady. Because emotional gravity grows when it is not forced. And then come the emotional triggers, the moments that reveal everything. Because when a song reminds her of you and her mood shifts instantly, when a scent pulls her back into a memory with you, when a place suddenly feels warmer or heavier because you were once there together, that is not coincidence. That is emotional encoding. Her mind has linked you to feeling, and feeling is the doorway to attachment. So be aware of this, because these triggers don't form from surface-level interaction. They form when someone has quietly integrated you into their emotional world. And that is why she may go silent at times. Not because interest has faded, but because her emotions are processing, integrating, settling. And you must not panic during these moments. Don't chase. Don't over-explain. Don't seek constant validation. Be grounded. Be present. Be consistent. Because consistency is one of the most underrated psychology tricks when it comes to female psychology. It creates safety. And safety is essential in how to fall in love in a real, lasting way. And here's the part many men misunderstand. Curiosity, comparison, and emotional triggers don't appear together by accident. They are stages, signals that build on one another. Curiosity opens the door. Comparison anchors your position. And emotional triggers seal the bond. And none of this requires grand gestures, dramatic words, or constant presence. It requires emotional clarity, self-respect, and the ability to let connection breathe. So don't try to perform, don't try to impress, be authentic, be attentive, be emotionally available without being overwhelming. That is the balance. And if you notice that she asks thoughtful questions, references past conversations, reacts emotionally to things connected to you, or subtly brings you into unrelated topics, don't ignore it. Don't downplay it. Acknowledge it internally. Stay composed, because attraction deepens when it feels safe and unpressured. And remember this clearly. Love does not begin with obsession. It begins with attention, with curiosity that feels natural, with emotional echoes that linger, and with a mind that keeps returning to the same person without effort. That is the quiet power of female psychology. That is how to fall in love without chasing it. And that is why the strongest psychology tricks are not tricks at all. They are patterns of emotional truth. So be patient, be aware, be grounded, and let emotional gravity do the work for you. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs this insight. Subscribe to the channel for more psychology-based wisdom about attraction, confidence, and self-mastery. Comment to remember, I leave a deep emotional impression without trying. Drop this affirmation in the comments to anchor this mindset, strengthen your confidence, and interact with the channel. 8. Resistance, jealousy, and vulnerability. She tells herself she's over you. She tells herself she shouldn't care. She tells herself it's time to move on. And she repeats these thoughts not because they are true, but because she hopes repetition will make them real. That is how resistance begins, not with confidence, but with effort. Because when a woman is truly done, she doesn't need to convince herself. She simply feels calm. She feels neutral. There is no internal argument. So when she fights her thoughts, when she keeps correcting her own feelings, that resistance is not strength. That resistance is proof. The harder she tries to push you out of her mind, the louder you become inside it. Thoughts don't grow stronger unless they matter. Emotions don't fight back unless they are attached. That is psychology, not poetry. Don't ignore this. Be observant, because resistance is often the first quiet signal that you are still deeply present in her emotional world, even when she tells herself you shouldn't be. And here's the part many men misunderstand. Resistance doesn't look like longing. It looks like control. It looks like distance. It looks like restraint. She may speak less. She may act composed. She may appear unaffected. But internally, her mind keeps circling back, replaying moments, conversations, expressions, tones. That mental loop is not accidental. That is emotional attachment trying to reassert itself. Don't mistake silence for indifference. Don't confuse restraint with disinterest. Be calm, be steady, because when a woman resists her feelings, she is often closer to vulnerability than she wants to admit. That is how emotional tension builds. And tension, when left unforced, creates depth. Now let's talk about jealousy, because this is where truth leaks through the cracks. One of the strongest, most undeniable signs that you are on her mind is when she becomes subtly protective of your attention. She won't announce it. She won't claim it. She won't label it. But she will react. Maybe her tone changes when another woman enters the conversation. Maybe she asks casual questions that aren't casual at all. Maybe she goes quiet when she thinks someone else has your focus. These reactions are not strategic, they are instinctive. That is important, because instincts reveal what logic tries to hide. Don't test her, don't provoke her, just notice. Because when a woman guards your attention, even silently, it means she has already assigned value to it. Jealousy in this form isn't loud or dramatic. It's refined, it's controlled, it's subtle. It shows up as curiosity disguised as indifference, as concern disguised as humor, as distance disguised as dignity, and that is exactly why it matters, because people don't protect what they don't care about. They don't react to what feels irrelevant. So when she feels a slight emotional shift at the thought of another woman having your interest, that is not insecurity. That is investment. That is her emotional mind saying, "This matters more than I expected. Be aware of this," because awareness, not reaction, is what separates a grounded man from an anxious one. And this is where the idea of the high-value man comes into play. A high-value man doesn't chase reactions. He doesn't feed on validation. He doesn't attempt to control emotions. He simply remains consistent, present, self-directed. When you stay centered, when you don't over-explain, when you don't compete for attention, you naturally attract women who feel emotionally safe around you. That safety creates attachment, and attachment, when unspoken, often reveals itself as jealousy, not because she wants to control you, but because she doesn't want to lose the emotional connection she feels forming. That is a crucial distinction. Be grounded, be calm. That is masculine energy at its most effective, not forceful, not performative, simply steady. Now let's move deeper, because vulnerability is where everything converges. Resistance and jealousy are defenses. Vulnerability is what leaks through when those defenses slip. You may notice it in brief moments, a soft admission, a nostalgic comment, a question that feels more personal than intended. These moments don't last long. She may pull back immediately. She may change the subject. She may regain composure. But don't miss it, because vulnerability doesn't appear unless trust is present. And trust doesn't appear unless emotional connection already exists. That is the sequence. You must understand this, because vulnerability is not a performance. It is a reflex. It happens when someone feels emotionally safe enough to let a thought escape before logic can stop it. And here's the paradox. The more she tries to protect herself from feeling too much, the more these vulnerable moments stand out. They are unplanned, unpolished, honest. And honesty, even when brief, carries weight. Don't interrogate it, don't cling to it, let it pass naturally. Because pressure kills vulnerability, but calm presence allows it to return. Be patient, be receptive. This is how you attract women without chasing them. This is how masculine energy works when it is aligned, not exaggerated. Now understand something critical. Resistance, jealousy, and vulnerability do not appear separately. They are connected. Resistance is the mind saying no. Jealousy is the emotion saying maybe. Vulnerability is the heart saying yes. These are stages, not contradictions. And when you see all three, even in small doses, it means she is internally negotiating her feelings for you. That negotiation takes time. It takes emotional safety, and it requires you to remain centered. Don't rush her process. Don't demand clarity. Don't push for labels. Be stable, because stability is magnetic. That is how you attract women who are emotionally mature and self-aware. This is also where many men sabotage themselves. They sense the tension, they feel the pull, and they react too quickly. They overmessage, they seek reassurance, they attempt to lock things down. Don't do that. You must resist the urge to resolve emotional tension prematurely. Tension is not a problem. Tension is information. It means something is forming, and formation takes space. Be confident enough to allow uncertainty. That confidence is what defines a high-value man. Not control, not pressure, but self-trust. And let's be clear, masculine energy is not about being cold or distant. It is about being grounded. It is about knowing who you are without needing constant reflection from someone else. When you live from that place, you naturally attract women who feel safe exploring their emotions around you. Safety is the foundation, not excitement alone, not charm alone. Safety combined with presence creates depth, and depth creates attachment. Now look at her behavior again through this lens. If she resists her feelings, it's because they are strong. If she reacts to perceived competition, it's because your attention holds weight. If she shows vulnerability, even briefly, it's because she trusts you more than she planned to. These are not accidents. These are signals, quiet ones, but powerful. And you must respond not with action, but with composure. Be consistent. Be self-directed. Be patient. That is how you attract women who are emotionally invested without ever needing to convince them. That is how you embody masculine energy without forcing it. That is how a high-value man moves through emotional dynamics with clarity and confidence. And remember this, when a woman is truly indifferent, there is no resistance. There is no jealousy. There is no vulnerability. There is only absence. So if you see these signs, even subtly, understand their meaning. Don't inflate them. Don't chase them. Just remain who you are. Because emotional gravity doesn't respond to effort. It responds to presence. That is the truth most men overlook. And once you understand it, you stop trying to attract women. You simply allow connection to unfold. Hey, thanks for staying with me till the end. Let me leave you with something that long nay. If you recognize these signs, don't rush, don't push, and don't overthink. When someone's emotions are already ahead of their logic, the worst thing you can do is force an outcome. Stay grounded, stay consistent, let your actions stay calm and clear. That's what keeps emotional gravity working in your favor. Remember, real connection isn't built by chasing or proving. It's built when you respect the space, value yourself, and let emotions grow naturally. If she's truly thinking about you, she'll move closer in her own time. Now I'm curious, which sign in this video hit you the hardest? And do you feel deep down that she's been thinking about you too? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear this today. Honestly, if a woman is not interested in you, she will do these 7 things, psychology tricks. Listen up, because this will save you more than pride. It'll save you time, focus, and your peace. Most men don't lose because they're not good enough. They lose because they keep investing in a woman who already checked out, and they call it hope. Here's the truth. When a woman isn't interested, she won't usually say it bluntly. She'll show it. Not with sweet words, not with polite smiles, but with consistent patterns that quietly reveal where you stand. And remember this line from Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That applies to dating more than anywhere else. If her interest is real, you won't have to decode it like a mystery novel. If it's not real, you'll find yourself making excuses for behavior that would be unacceptable if you respected your own time. So don't cling to maybe. Don't chase mixed signals like they're secret invitations. Be the man who watches actions, not promises. Society trains men to over-pursue, over-explain, and overweight, but you're not here to beg for clarity. You're here to see reality and move with discipline. So subscribe, because what we're about to cover will hit hard, but it will make you sharper, calmer, and impossible to manipulate. 7 behaviors a woman consistently shows when she's not interested, and once you recognize them, you'll stop wasting months on what was never yours to fight for. 1. Mysterious unavailability. Here's something most men don't want to hear, but every man between 35 and 70 needs to understand clearly if he wants peace of mind, self-respect, and emotional clarity. When a woman is not interested in you, one of the earliest and loudest signals is what I call mysterious unavailability. And it's a pattern so consistent that once you learn to see it, you can never unsee it again. Because this is not about chance, bad timing, or temporary stress. This is about priority, and priority never lies. So don't brush this off. Don't soften it. Don't rationalize it. And don't argue with reality, because reality is trying to protect you, not hurt you. When a woman isn't interested, she doesn't disappear once in a while. She disappears regularly, predictably, and conveniently. She's always busy. Not in a focused, disciplined way, but in a scattered, excuse-filled way that somehow never resolves. She has work, she has errands, she has family things, She has social commitments. She has sudden obligations. She has vague plans. She has something came up. And the key detail most men miss is not that she's busy, it's that she's always busy specifically when it comes to you and only you. Because here's the truth most men refuse to accept. Everyone has the same 24 hours, and interest rearranges time without effort. When a woman genuinely wants to see you, she doesn't negotiate with the calendar like it's a legal contract. She simply makes it happen. She moves things around. She shortens other commitments. She creates space, even if that space is small, because desire doesn't need perfect conditions, it just needs intention. And this is basic female psychology. It hasn't changed in decades, no matter how modern dating looks on the surface. When she's interested, she texts back with momentum. She suggests alternatives instead of delays. She locks in plans instead of floating maybes. She shows consistency instead of fog. But when she's not interested, the pattern flips completely. And this is where men start hurting themselves by lying to their own minds. They say things like, she's just overwhelmed, or she's going through a busy phase, or once things calm down, she'll have more time. But listen carefully. Calm never comes for someone who isn't looking for you. The week turns into 2 weeks. The weekend turns into next month, and next month quietly turns into silence. During that silence, you'll notice something that stings if you're honest with yourself. You'll see her active elsewhere, smiling in photos, laughing with friends, attending events, living her life, which tells you everything without saying a word, because time is not missing. It's allocated elsewhere. And this is not cruelty. This is clarity. The cruelty comes when you refuse to accept the clarity and start building hope on top of excuses. Don't do that. Don't chase ambiguity. Don't invest emotion where there is no return signal. Don't reward distance with effort, because psychology tricks only work when you first understand yourself. And the most powerful psychology trick is emotional self-control, not persuasion, not strategy, not manipulation, just self-respect. When you remain available while she remains unavailable, you create imbalance. And imbalance kills attraction before it ever has a chance to grow, because attraction feeds on mutual energy, not one-sided patience. And this is where many men confuse kindness with endurance. They think being understanding will eventually earn desire. But desire is not a reward for waiting. It's a response to presence, confidence, and clarity. If she doesn't meet you there, you must stop filling in the gaps for her. Don't ask for more explanations. Don't request reassurance. Don't push for closure conversations that lead nowhere. Be still. Be observant. Be honest with yourself, because her behavior has already answered the question you're afraid to ask out loud. Here's the deeper layer most men miss. Mysterious unavailability is often passive communication. It's how someone says no without saying it directly. And while that may feel frustrating, it's still communication. Your job is not to decode it endlessly. Your job is to respond with dignity. The moment you stop chasing someone who isn't choosing you, you regain your power instantly. And power here doesn't mean control over her. It means control over yourself. Understand this through the lens of female psychology and how to fall in love properly, because love does not begin in confusion. It begins in clarity, safety, and mutual effort. Any connection that requires you to constantly guess where you stand is not a connection. It's an emotional drain. And the longer you stay in it, the more you train your mind to accept uncertainty as normal, which it isn't. Don't keep telling yourself that showing more effort will suddenly flip the switch. Effort without interest feels like pressure, not attraction. This is one of those psychology tricks that backfires when misunderstood, because the more you lean in while she leans out, the less appealing the dynamic becomes. Not because you did something wrong, but because attraction cannot grow where enthusiasm is uneven. Instead, do this. Step back without drama, without resentment, without announcements. Stop initiating. Stop filling silence. Stop offering availability where none is returned. And watch how the truth surfaces on its own. If she notices and reaches out with genuine effort, you have information. And if she doesn't, you also have information. Both outcomes free you. And freedom is the real win here. Remember, being busy is a fact of life. But being unavailable to one specific person is a choice. Once you accept that, you stop wasting emotional energy trying to solve a problem that isn't yours to solve. Because the goal is not to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to recognize when someone already isn't and move accordingly. This understanding alone will save you years of frustration, sleepless nights, and self-doubt. It aligns perfectly with healthy female psychology and how to fall in love in a grounded, mutual way, not an anxious, one-sided way. Don't be the man who waits indefinitely for clarity that already exists. Be the man who sees patterns, respects himself, and walks forward without bitterness. Because the right connection never hides behind constant unavailability. It meets you halfway without needing excuses. And once you internalize this, psychology tricks stop being about tactics and start becoming wisdom. Because wisdom is simply seeing reality clearly and choosing yourself without guilt. 2. Low effort communication. Communication tells you everything, far more than promises, far more than words chosen carefully. Not what she says, but how she says it, the energy behind it, the effort inside it, the interest woven through it, or the silence hiding behind it. And when a woman is not interested in you, her communication becomes low effort in a way that feels subtle at first, almost innocent, but painfully obvious once you learn how to see it clearly. Her messages shrink. One word, two words, no questions back, no curiosity about your life, no desire to keep the conversation alive. You send her a thoughtful paragraph, something with substance, something real. She replies with LOL, or cool, or nice. You ask her about her day, genuinely wanting to connect, and she says it was fine, with nothing attached. No story, no follow-up, no opening. You share something you're excited about, an achievement, a plan, a moment that matters to you, and she responds with a thumbs-up emoji, like you just sent her a receipt instead of a piece of your life. There's no reciprocation, no engagement, no depth. And that absence is not accidental. It's communication in its purest form. Here's where most men go wrong, especially men who still believe effort alone can change outcomes. They try harder. They send longer messages. They explain themselves more clearly. They ask more questions. They chase the conversation. They overcompensate for her lack of interest with their own enthusiasm, thinking that consistency, patience, or emotional availability will eventually turn the tide. Don't do that. Don't confuse persistence with attraction. Don't mistake silence for mystery, because it never works. Not once. You can't negotiate attraction. You can't text your way into her heart. You can't convince someone to care by caring harder. Attraction is not a debate. It's a response. And female psychology is very clear on this point, even if modern dating culture tries to blur it. When a woman is interested, communication feels different immediately. Not perfect, not constant, but alive. She matches your energy. She asks questions, not out of politeness, but curiosity. She shares about herself without being prompted. She sends voice notes because typing feels limiting. She uses emojis that show emotion, not just acknowledgement. She keeps the conversation going because she wants to talk to you, not because she feels obligated to reply. There's rhythm. There's flow. There's mutual effort. That is how women naturally behave when attraction is present. And that behavior doesn't need to be taught, coached, or requested. It happens on its own. But when she's not interested, every response feels like pulling teeth. Every conversation dies unless you resuscitate it. Every interaction feels one-sided, like you're carrying a weight she never agreed to hold. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know it. You feel it in your chest. You notice it in the pauses. You see it in the timing, the brevity, the lack of warmth. You just don't want to accept it, because acceptance feels like loss. But clarity is not loss. Clarity is relief. This is where becoming a high-value man starts, not with tactics, not with scripts, not with psychology tricks designed to manipulate outcomes, but with emotional discipline and self-awareness. A high-value man does not chase low-effort communication. He does not reward disinterest with more access. He does not pour masculine energy into a space that offers no return. He observes. He calibrates. He responds accordingly. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic. Understand this deeply. Low-effort communication is not a test you need to pass. It's an answer you need to accept. Many men think they're being tested when a woman replies slowly or briefly, so they lean in harder, thinking endurance proves worth. But attraction doesn't grow through endurance. It grows through alignment. When effort is uneven, attraction collapses under its own imbalance. And the more you chase, the more you signal that your time and attention have no value. That signal quietly erodes masculine energy, not because you care, but because you ignore your own boundaries. Don't analyze every emoji. Don't reread messages searching for hidden meaning. Don't ask yourself what you did wrong. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this communication reciprocal? If the answer is no, then the behavior is the message. Be a man who listens to behavior. Be a man who trusts patterns. Be a man who understands female psychology without resenting it. Because women don't owe interest, but you owe your self-awareness. Here's the paradox most men miss. The moment you stop chasing low-effort communication, you become more attractive, not necessarily to her, but to the right dynamic. When you pull back calmly, without drama, without passive-aggressive remarks, without sudden disappearances designed to provoke a reaction, you reclaim your frame. You stop leaking energy. You stop performing. And that is when masculine energy stabilizes. That stability is what allows you to attract women who actually want to engage, not just respond. A high-value man doesn't try to win attention. He notices where attention flows naturally. He invests where effort is mutual. He walks away from what feels forced. That mindset alone filters your dating life dramatically. It saves time. It saves emotional energy. It saves dignity. And it aligns you with how to fall in love in a healthy, grounded way, where interest grows from shared curiosity, not emotional labor. Don't misunderstand this. This is not about becoming cold. It's not about ignoring women. It's not about playing games. It's about refusing to play a game where the rules are already stacked against you. If her replies feel like obligations instead of enthusiasm, step back. If conversations only survive through your effort, pause. If silence feels heavy instead of peaceful, stop initiating. That is not punishment. That is alignment. And here's something important for men between 35 and 70 to hear clearly. At this stage of life, your time is your most valuable currency. Spending it chasing low-effort communication is not romantic. It's expensive. You have experience. You have perspective. You have depth. You don't need to convince anyone to see that. The right woman will feel it and respond accordingly. When you understand this, psychology tricks stop being tricks. They become awareness. Female psychology stops feeling confusing and starts feeling consistent, and attracting women stops being about effort and starts being about selection. You don't attract women by talking more. You attract women by being centered, calm, and selective with your attention. That is masculine energy at its core. So don't send another paragraph to someone giving you one-word replies. Don't ask another question to someone who never asks you anything back. Don't explain your value to someone who isn't curious enough to discover it. Be still, be observant, be honest. That is how a high-value man moves. That is how you attract women who actually want to connect. And that is how you protect your energy, your confidence, and your self-respect without anger, without bitterness, and without regret. If this hit a little too close to home, that's a good thing. Because clarity is power. Stop chasing dry replies. Stop carrying conversations alone. Choose self-respect over false hope. And if you're ready to move like a man who values his time and energy, drop a comment right now and say, "I don't chase low-effort communication." Like this video, subscribe for more real-world psychology, and remind yourself every day, interest is shown, not explained. 3. One-sided initiation. One-sided initiation is not a small detail, it is the detail. If you miss it, you miss everything. In modern life, attention is currency. Effort is proof. Consistency reveals truth faster than words ever will. So watch closely who reaches out first, who starts conversations, who suggests plans, and who keeps the connection alive. Patterns never lie, even when people do. If you are always the one texting first, calling first, checking in first, adjusting your schedule first, and carrying the emotional weight of the interaction, you are not leading. You are not being masculine. You are not showing interest. You are overextending into silence. And as harsh as it sounds, there is a difference between pursuing and bothering. Experienced men learn this the hard way. When a woman is genuinely interested, initiation is mutual, effortless, and natural. She reaches out without prompting. She sends you things that remind her of you. She checks in because she wants to, not because she feels obligated. She starts conversations because you are already on her mind. She looks for reasons to connect, not excuses to disappear. But when she is not interested, the pattern flips completely into absence, delay, and indifference. Suddenly, everything depends on you, your effort, your energy, your imagination, your patience. If you stop texting, you would hear nothing. If you stop making plans, you would see nothing. If you stopped reaching out altogether, days would turn into weeks, and weeks might stretch into nothing at all. This is where most men lie to themselves, telling stories to protect their hope. She's just shy. She's bad at texting. She's waiting for me to lead. She's busy. She's different. But Old Stoic wisdom reminds us that reality does not require interpretation. It requires acceptance. People do exactly what they want to do. They make time for what matters to them. Marcus Aurelius warned long ago that confusion comes not from events themselves, but from the stories we attach to them. In today's world, where everyone carries a phone, silence is not an accident. It is a message. Here is the test most men avoid because it threatens their ego but saves their future. Stop initiating. Stop texting first. Stop carrying the interaction. Stop doing all the emotional labor. Step back and observe. Observation is power, and power belongs to the calm, disciplined mind, not the anxious one. See what happens. See if she notices. See if she reaches out. See if she asks where you've been. See if she actually cares enough to bridge the gap herself. If she does nothing, you do not need another conversation, another explanation, or another 6 months of hope. You already have your answer. Knowing the truth early is a victory, not a loss, because time is the only resource you never get back. Stoicism win is not about bitterness or blame. It is about clarity, boundaries, and emotional economy. The iron mind understands this deeply. Interest does not need to be chased, explained, negotiated, or extracted. It shows up willingly, consistently, and without pressure. In modern dating culture, where options are endless and distractions are constant, effort becomes the clearest signal of value. When effort only flows in one direction, the connection is already unbalanced. No amount of charm, patience, or persistence will fix a dynamic built on indifference. As Seneca wrote, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Most men suffer because they refuse to accept what is already happening in front of them. Instead of mastering their emotions, they hand control over to someone who has not earned it. Old Stoic wisdom teaches us to reclaim that control by aligning actions with truth, not hope. Here is the empowering shift. When you stop over-initiating, you stop leaking energy. When you stop chasing, you regain dignity. When you stop explaining yourself, you become grounded. Whether she reaches out or disappears becomes irrelevant because either outcome gives you clarity. Clarity is freedom. This is the mindset Stoicism win is built on. A man with an iron mind does not beg for attention. He does not compete for indifference. He does not invest where there is no return. He observes, decides, and moves forward with purpose. This is not about anger or resentment. It is about self-respect, efficiency, and emotional leadership in your own life. The goal is not to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to recognize when someone already has. If she hasn't, you walk away without drama, without speeches, without chasing closure. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your absence becomes your answer. The modern man who masters this lesson stops wasting years on unclear situations and starts directing his energy toward growth, peace, and relationships that meet him halfway. That is how you win, not by forcing attraction, but by refusing to abandon yourself for it. By practicing Old Stoic wisdom daily, by building an iron mind that values truth over fantasy, by living the philosophy of Stoicism, win not as theory, but as a standard for how you move, choose, and protect your time in a world that constantly tests your discipline. 4. Talking about other men. Here's the hard truth most men don't want to face, but absolutely must understand if they want clarity, dignity, and peace of mind. When a woman is not interested in you, one of the clearest signs shows up in how freely she talks about other men. And if you don't learn to read this signal, you will waste months or even years stuck in false hope, silent frustration, and emotional confusion. So listen carefully. Don't explain this away. Don't romanticize it. Don't tell yourself stories that protect your ego, because this behavior is not accidental, it is not random, and it is not harmless. When a woman feels comfortable talking about other men in front of you, guys who approached her, men she finds attractive, her ex, male coworkers, or someone she's currently curious about, and especially when she asks your opinion about another man, that is not openness. That is placement. That is her unconsciously putting you into a category that is not romantic, because attraction changes behavior, and female psychology is brutally honest once you know what to look for. This is one of those psychology tricks that reveals the truth without a single word being spoken. Understand this clearly. She is not worried about making you jealous. She is not concerned about how you feel, and she is not protecting the dynamic between you, because in her mind, there is no romantic dynamic to protect, and that alone should tell you everything you need to know. When a woman sees you as a potential partner, she becomes selective with her words, careful with her stories, and aware of emotional boundaries. But when she sees you as safe, neutral, or non-threatening, she speaks freely, casually, almost carelessly, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she doesn't even consider that it might hurt you. And that is the most painful part for many men to accept. Don't misunderstand this as cruelty. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. And clarity is a gift if you're mature enough to receive it. The real damage happens when a man ignores this signal and continues to invest time, energy, attention, and emotional labor into a woman who has already decided quietly, internally, that he is not a romantic option. This is where so many men lose themselves. They stay present, they stay available, they stay supportive, they listen, they advise, they reassure, they hope. And all the while, she is speaking about other men as if he were her confidant, her emotional anchor, her safe place to land. That role feels flattering at first, but it is a dead end if what you want is attraction, intimacy, and mutual desire. This is where understanding female psychology saves you. Women do not operate primarily through direct rejection. They operate through behavior, through tone, through what they include you in, and what they exclude you from. And when she includes you in conversations about other men, she is excluding you from being one of them. That is not something you can negotiate your way out of, because attraction is not built through effort. It is revealed through response. Don't tell yourself, she's just being honest. Don't tell yourself, she trusts me. Don't tell yourself, maybe she's testing me. Those stories keep you stuck, and being stuck is far worse than being rejected. Rejection frees you. False hope slowly drains you. That is why so many men feel exhausted, resentful, and confused after long interactions with women who never actually wanted them romantically. They ignored the early signs and paid the price later. Be honest with yourself now. Honesty is power. Power is peace. And peace allows you to move forward with confidence instead of bitterness. Because when a woman is interested in you, she does not talk about other men. Not because she is hiding something, but because her focus naturally narrows. Attraction simplifies priorities. She is aware, consciously or unconsciously, that introducing other men into the conversation dilutes the emotional tension between you. Women who are drawn to you instinctively protect that tension. They don't invite competition. They don't seek your advice about their dating life. They don't vent about other men's behavior. They create space. They create curiosity. They create room for you to step in. And that difference matters more than any compliment, text message, or shared laugh. This is one of those psychology tricks that reveals intention without confrontation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Patterns don't lie. Behavior doesn't lie. Only our interpretations do. That is why men who understand how to fall in love properly, without losing themselves, pay attention to patterns instead of promises. Words are easy. Behavior is expensive. It costs emotional energy, and people only spend that energy where it matters to them. Don't stay where you are not desired. Don't compete silently with men who don't even know you exist. Don't play the role of emotional support while hoping for romance to magically appear. Hope without evidence is self-betrayal, and self-betrayal always leads to resentment. Resentment poisons your confidence, your presence, and your future relationships. Be grounded, be observant, be willing to walk away early instead of bleeding slowly. Walking away from the wrong situation creates space for the right one. This is something female psychology responds to deeply, even if it never turns this particular woman around. Because the goal is not to convince someone to choose you. The goal is to choose situations where you are already wanted. That is how to fall in love with clarity instead of confusion, with strength instead of anxiety, with mutual desire instead of silent longing. This is why men who understand psychology tricks don't argue with reality. They adjust to it. They respect themselves enough to step back when the signs are clear, and they move forward without anger, without blame, and without needing closure. Because the behavior already gave them the answer. You must remember this. Attraction doesn't require decoding when it's real. It feels clean. It feels mutual. It feels simple. The moment you find yourself analyzing, justifying, or enduring conversations about other men, that is your signal to pause, reassess, and reclaim your time. Your attention is valuable. Your presence matters, and your life is too short to be spent in someone else's waiting room. Once you truly understand this aspect of female psychology, you stop chasing signals and start choosing alignment. And that shift changes everything. If this hit a nerve, don't ignore it. Like this video, subscribe for more clear-eyed psychology, and share it with a man who needs the truth, not false hope. And to lock this lesson in, comment this sentence below and mean it. If she talks about other men, I stop waiting and start choosing myself. 5. Cancellations without rescheduling. Here's a pattern that reveals everything, and once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. When a woman cancels plans, don't focus on the cancellation itself. Focus on what happens next. That is where the truth lives. Life happens, schedules change, emergencies come up. A cancellation alone means nothing. But behavior after the cancellation tells you everything you need to know. If a woman is genuinely interested, her energy doesn't disappear just because the plan fell apart. She feels it. She acknowledges it. She explains what happened. She apologizes without being dramatic. And most importantly, she replaces what was lost. She offers another day, another time, another plan. She takes initiative. She makes it clear that she still wants to see you. That is not chasing. That is basic investment. That is how interest behaves. But when a woman is not interested, the cancellation becomes vague and hollow. Sorry, something came up. I'm not feeling great. Can we do this another time? And then silence. No follow-up, no alternative, no effort to keep the connection moving forward. The words sound polite, but the action is empty, and action always outweighs words. This is not confusion. This is passive rejection. It's subtle. It's quiet. It avoids confrontation, and it keeps many men stuck longer than they should be. Pay attention to what happens when you try again. You bring it up calmly, you suggest another time, and suddenly she's busy again, or unsure, or non-committal. Yeah, maybe. Let me check my schedule. I'll let you know. And she never does. Days pass, weeks pass, nothing materializes. That is not bad timing. That is low priority. That is someone keeping you in limbo while exploring other options. And this is where men lose their footing if they don't understand female psychology. Don't explain this away. Don't tell yourself she's just overwhelmed. Don't assume she's shy. Don't convince yourself that being patient will somehow earn you interest. Patience does not create attraction. Presence does. Initiative does. Mutual effort does. A woman who wants to see you makes it easy to see her. Not effortless, but clear. Clear communication, clear intention, clear movement forward. Anything else is a signal, not a puzzle. This is where a high-value man separates himself from the crowd. He doesn't argue with reality. He doesn't beg for clarity. He doesn't send follow-up messages trying to revive dead momentum. He observes, he notes the pattern, and he responds with self-respect. That is masculine energy in its calmest form, quiet, grounded, unreactive. A high-value man understands that attraction flows toward certainty, not neediness, toward direction, not hesitation, toward men who know when to step forward and when to step away. Be honest with yourself. If she wanted to reschedule, she would. If she wanted to see you, she would make space. People do not forget what matters to them. They rearrange for it, they protect it, they prioritize it. This is not about blaming her. She doesn't owe you interest, and you don't owe her unlimited availability. That is the balance many men miss. They keep showing up where they are not being chosen, hoping consistency will turn into desire. It won't. Consistency without reciprocation turns into quiet frustration. Don't stay in limbo. Limbo is where confidence erodes. Limbo is where you start checking your phone too often, where you replay conversations, where you lower your standards just to keep a connection alive. That is not how you attract women. That is how you lose yourself. A man rooted in masculine energy does not hover. He moves. He decides. He creates momentum in his own life instead of waiting for permission. Notice how different it feels when interest is real. When she cancels but immediately says, "I'm really sorry. Can we do Thursday instead?" When she follows up later and checks in. When she takes responsibility for keeping the connection alive. There is no guessing, no decoding, no anxiety. Attraction feels clean. Confusion is your signal that something is off. You must understand this deeply. Accepting vague cancellations without rescheduling trains people how to treat you. It silently communicates that your time is flexible, optional, and easy to dismiss. A high-value man does not lecture. He does not threaten. He simply adjusts his availability. He withdraws his attention. He moves forward. That alone is powerful. That alone resets the dynamic. And even if it doesn't change her behavior, it protects your self-respect. Be decisive. If she cancels and offers no alternative, take it as information, not an insult. Information. Say nothing dramatic. Don't chase clarity. Don't demand explanations. Simply step back. Invest your energy elsewhere. Build your life. Strengthen your purpose. That is how you attract women who are aligned with you. That is how masculine energy naturally grows, through direction, discipline, and emotional control, not through persuasion. This is one of those psychology tricks that feels simple, but saves you years of wasted effort. Men who master this don't become cold or bitter. They become selective, calm, grounded. They stop auditioning for attention and start choosing environments where interest is mutual. That shift alone changes how women respond to you because people feel when a man is not afraid to walk away. Don't confuse kindness with tolerance. Be kind, be respectful, but don't tolerate patterns that drain you. You must protect your time because your time is your life. And the moment you stop chasing vague interest is the moment you become more attractive, not because you're playing games, but because you're standing on principle. That is the essence of being a high-value man. Remember this, women who want you make it easy to move forward. Women who don't keep it vague. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to observe and respond with dignity. That is how you attract women who respect you. That is how masculine energy stays intact. And that is how you move through dating with clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of anxiety, and purpose instead of waiting. 6. Closed-off body language. Body language never lies, and this is one of the most uncomfortable truths a man must face if he wants clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of hope, and peace instead of self-deception. Because when a woman is not interested in you, her body will say no long before her mouth ever does. And no amount of talking, explaining, or trying harder will override what her instincts are already communicating. She creates distance without announcing it. She pulls her energy inward. She stops leaning in. She stops finding reasons to be close. She does not touch you casually. She does not linger. She does not soften, and if you move closer, she subtly moves away, not dramatically, not cruelly, but just enough to restore space, because space is safety when interest is absent. And if you place your arm around her and her body stiffens, that stiffness is not confusion, it is clarity. If you reach for her hand and she withdraws, that withdrawal is not timing, it is truth. And this is where most men fail themselves by arguing with reality instead of listening to it. The body speaks the language the mind cannot fake, and as the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, all credibility, all good conscience, all evidence of truth come only from the senses, which means what you see and feel matters more than what you hope. And in modern life, where texting, mixed signals, and social politeness blur boundaries, body language remains brutally honest, because attraction pulls people closer without effort, and disinterest creates invisible walls without explanation. And you already know this, because you have felt that wall before. You have sensed the lack of warmth, the absence of eye contact, the arms crossed, the body angled away, the subtle lack of engagement that makes conversations feel heavy and one-sided. Yet instead of accepting the message, many men negotiate with it, rationalize it, or try to outperform it, which only drains self-respect and weakens presence. Understand this clearly. When a woman is attracted to you, she does not need to be convinced to be close. She leans in naturally. She mirrors your movements without realizing it. She sits closer than necessary. She finds reasons to brush against you, to touch your arm, to maintain eye contact just a second longer than polite. Because attraction is not logical, it is instinctive, and instinct moves the body before the mind catches up. But when that instinct is absent, the body closes, and no clever words can open it. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest ally, because Stoicism teaches you not to chase what resists, not to cling to what withdraws, and not to base your worth on another person's response. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And strength here means the ability to observe reality without taking it personally, to accept signals without resentment, and to move forward with dignity intact. A man with an iron mind does not beg for closeness that is not freely given. He does not push against closed doors. He does not argue with nonverbal truth. He steps back calmly, regains his center, and chooses self-respect over validation, because Stoicism win is not about winning people over. It is about winning yourself back, mastering your reactions, and refusing to waste emotional energy where it is not returned. In today's world, many men confuse persistence with strength, but persistence in the face of disinterest is not strength. It is attachment, and attachment clouds judgment, lowers presence, and makes a man appear unaware rather than confident, whereas clarity, clear eyes, calm acceptance, and decisive movement forward is magnetic, even when it leads you away from a particular woman, because nothing raises a man's value faster than his willingness to walk away from what does not align, and nothing lowers it faster than his refusal to see what is right in front of him. Body language is feedback, not a personal attack, and feedback is a gift if you have the discipline to receive it without ego, because it allows you to redirect your energy toward growth, purpose, and self-mastery, which is where real attraction begins, whether from women or from life itself. And this is why the Stoic path insists on observation over fantasy, reality over hope, and self-command over emotional bargaining, because a man who can calmly accept disinterest without bitterness is a man who cannot be shaken. And as Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And reacting well here means not collapsing inward, not hardening outward, but standing steady, learning the lesson, and moving on stronger. Remember this. Instruction clearly. If her body pulls away, you pull back too, not out of spite, not to prove anything, but to honor yourself. If she creates distance, you respect it without commentary. If warmth is absent, you do not try to manufacture it, because forced connection is not connection, and chasing closed energy only teaches your mind to ignore truth, which weakens your instincts over time, whereas honoring reality sharpens them, and a sharp mind is the foundation of an iron mind. Modern men are surrounded by noise telling them to try harder, say more, prove value, but old Stoic wisdom says the opposite. Observe, detach, act with precision. And when you live this way, you stop wasting time on uncertainty, you stop replaying moments in your head, and you stop asking why someone does not feel what they do not feel, because the answer is already visible in the space they create, the silence they keep, and the distance they maintain, and this understanding does not make you cold. It makes you free, because freedom begins when you stop needing external confirmation to remain steady inside. Stoicism win is not about emotional suppression. It is about emotional clarity, and clarity allows you to redirect your focus toward becoming a man whose presence feels grounded, whose boundaries feel calm, and whose life has direction beyond approval. And ironically, it is often only after a man stops chasing connection that he becomes capable of creating it, because attraction grows in the space where self-respect lives, and self-respect grows when you listen to truth without resistance, even when that truth tells you to walk away, stand tall, and continue forward alone if necessary. Remember this lesson well. Repeat it until it settles in your bones. Bodies don't lie. Distance is communication. Resistance is information. And acceptance is strength. And when you master this, you stop losing energy to false hope. You stop confusing politeness with interest, and you start living with the quiet confidence of a man who sees clearly, chooses wisely, and moves decisively, which is the ultimate victory according to Old Stoic wisdom, the hallmark of an iron mind, and the essence of what it truly means to Stoicism win. If you made it this far, you already know the truth most men try to ignore. Attraction doesn't hide in words. It shows up in distance, tension, and silence. Her body always answers before her mouth does. So here's the move that separates men who grow from men who stay stuck. Stop chasing mixed signals. Start respecting clear ones. If this hit home, comment this below and make it real. I accept reality early, and I choose self-respect over false hope. 7. Emotional distance. When a woman is not interested in you, the clearest and most decisive sign is emotional distance. This is the final line you must learn to recognize without denial or excuses, because emotional distance is not accidental. It is intentional, and it speaks louder than words ever could. She never truly lets you in, not because she is shy or guarded by nature, but because she has already decided, often unconsciously, that you are not the man she wants to build something deeper with. So she keeps every interaction safe, controlled, and surface level. She talks about neutral topics and daily routines, shares harmless stories, but never her fears, never her private struggles, never the dreams that keep her awake at night, never the thoughts that reveal her inner world. This is where many men get confused, because they mistake politeness for connection and consistency for attraction. That is a misunderstanding of female psychology, because emotional openness is the currency of interest, and when that currency is never spent, it means there is no investment. Don't tell yourself she just needs time. Don't assume she will open up later if you try harder. Don't chase depth from someone who has chosen distance. When a woman is interested, she wants to be known. She wants you to understand her. She volunteers vulnerability without being pushed. She creates emotional moments naturally. She asks deeper questions. She remembers details. She leans into conversations instead of escaping them. This is not manipulation or mystery. It is basic human behavior explained through psychology tricks and honest observation of how attraction actually works. When she is not interested, you can know her for weeks, months, even years, and still realize one day that you know nothing real about her. Every time the conversation approaches meaning, she deflects, she jokes. She changes the subject, she delays. She keeps emotional doors closed. That distance is not confusion, it is clarity. You must respect it. Trying to force emotional closeness where it is not offered only weakens your position and drains your self-respect. Be clear with yourself. Be honest about what you are experiencing. Be disciplined enough to walk away from emotional dead ends. A woman who sees you as just someone to talk to will never suddenly wake up and fall deeply in love, no matter how patient or kind you are. Understanding this is one of the most important lessons in female psychology and how to fall in love the right way, not through chasing, not through proving, but through mutual emotional investment. Don't confuse availability with intimacy. Don't confuse frequent contact with connection. A woman can reply to messages, laugh at jokes, and still feel nothing beyond comfort. Comfort without emotional depth leads nowhere romantic. It leads to stagnation, frustration, and wasted time. That is why emotionally unavailable behavior should never be negotiated with, explained away, or tolerated indefinitely. Attraction grows in shared vulnerability, not in emotional silence. When she keeps you at arm's length, it is because that is exactly where she wants you to stay. Accept this without bitterness, without resentment, without self-blame. Her lack of interest is not a verdict on your worth. It is simply a mismatch of desire and timing. The strongest response is not persuasion, but detachment, not confrontation, but calm withdrawal. Nothing communicates self-respect more clearly than recognizing when you are not wanted and choosing to move forward anyway. Psychology tricks do not mean manipulation. They mean awareness. They mean reading patterns instead of clinging to hope. They mean understanding that emotional distance is a decision, not a phase. Once you see it clearly, you are free to stop investing where there is no return and redirect your energy toward a woman who wants depth with you, who invites you into her inner world, who trusts you with her fears and dreams. That is how real connection begins. That is how attraction grows naturally. That is how love, real love, has the space to form. And the moment you truly understand this principle of female psychology and how to fall in love wisely, you stop chasing closed doors and start becoming the man who only walks through doors that are already open. All right, my friend, let's bring this home. Calm, clear, and grounded. If you've been seeing these signs, take a breath and face the truth with dignity. She's not interested, and that's not a failure, it's information. No amount of pushing, calling, or trying harder will turn confusion into desire. So stop chasing, not to prove anything, not to play games, but to protect your self-respect. When a woman truly wants you, you won't have to decode mixed signals or read between the lines. Interest is simple. It's clear. Confusion is already your answer. Don't keep investing your time, energy, and heart into someone who treats you like an option. You deserve someone who shows up willingly, someone who chooses you without hesitation. And you'll never meet that woman while you're busy running after someone who's moving away. This is the shift. This is where you reclaim your power. Walk away with your head high and make space for something real. Women are attracted to men who do these things, psychology tricks. Let's be honest for a minute. Most men think attraction is built on surface stuff, money, muscles, status, the right lifestyle. And sure, those things can grab attention for a moment. But attention isn't attraction. Attention is cheap. Real attraction is quiet. It's the kind that grows when a woman watches how you move through life, how you speak, how you handle pressure, how you treat people when there's nothing to gain. Here's the part most men don't want to hear. Women are rarely impressed by what you have. They're impressed by who you are when nobody is clapping. They notice your mindset, your emotional control, your self-respect. They notice whether you're trying to prove yourself or whether you already feel complete without approval. Because a man who needs to be chosen gives off pressure, but a man who chooses his standards gives off peace, and peace is powerful. As Lao Tzu put it, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. That's the difference. Weak men chase attraction like a prize. Strong men build a life and a mindset so solid that attraction becomes a side effect. And yes, this will challenge what you've been taught. Movies trained you to think women only chase the flashy things. Social media trained you to believe you're invisible unless you flex something. But reality works differently. You can have everything on paper and still lose her interest if you don't have the deeper qualities that make a man feel safe, steady, and respected. So in this video, we're not doing cheesy tricks. We're not doing manipulation. We're talking about practical behaviors and mindsets that women consistently respond to because they signal maturity, confidence, and real masculine stability. Some of it will make you uncomfortable because it forces you to drop the old habits, over-explaining, over-chasing, over-trying. But other parts will hit you like, how did I miss this my whole life? Whether you're single, dating, or already in a relationship, learning what women actually notice will change how you carry yourself. You'll stop guessing. You'll stop performing. You'll stop playing small just to be liked. Pay attention, because most men never learn this, and that's exactly why they stay stuck. Getting attention, but never earning respect. Getting dates, but never keeping genuine interest. By the end, you'll see attraction differently, and you'll finally understand what it really takes to draw women in the way that lasts. 1. Stop being too available. Here's the uncomfortable reality most men don't want to face, but need to hear if they truly want to understand attraction through real psychology tricks and not empty advice. Stop being too available, because constant availability quietly erodes attraction without you even noticing. When you are always there, always answering, always adjusting your schedule, always saying yes, you slowly become part of the background of her life instead of something she looks forward to. Don't misunderstand this. This is not about ignoring her, disappearing, or playing childish games. That kind of behavior is transparent and unattractive. This is about recognizing how female psychology actually works when it comes to desire, respect, and emotional pull. When a man makes himself endlessly accessible, he unintentionally communicates that his time has little value, that his life has no competing priorities, and that his sense of purpose bends easily around someone else. Be honest with yourself. If you drop everything the moment she calls, if you rearrange your entire life to fit her availability, if you are constantly present and predictable, you may feel devoted. But what she feels is familiarity without mystery. And familiarity without mystery rarely leads to desire. Scarcity is not cruelty. Scarcity is contrast. It reminds her that your presence is a choice, not a guarantee. Think about it. Anything that is always available eventually stops feeling special. The first message excites. The 100th becomes expected. The same applies to your attention. Predictability drains tension, and tension is a key ingredient in attraction and in understanding how to fall in love. Women are naturally drawn to men who have momentum in their lives, men who are moving toward goals, men whose days are filled with meaning beyond romantic validation. That busyness, that occasional unavailability, signals confidence without saying a word. Be clear about this. You must have a life that does not orbit around her. That is not selfishness. That is stability, and stability feels safe and attractive. When you always say yes, when you are always free, when you are always waiting, you teach her that your time is flexible because your priorities are thin. Don't do that. Be firm with your time. Be grounded in your choices. That firmness is felt immediately, even if she never articulates it. Consider how this plays out in real situations. She invites you out on a night you already planned to spend with friends or working on something important to you. The instinct for many men is to cancel everything and rush toward her, believing that availability equals interest. But real attraction responds differently. Say calmly, "I'm tied up tonight, but tomorrow works." No explanation, no apology, no guilt. That single sentence communicates self-respect, direction, and emotional steadiness. You're not rejecting her. You're honoring yourself. And that subtle shift changes how she sees you. She notices that your life has structure, that your presence isn't automatic, and that when you choose to show up, it means something. That choice is powerful. This is one of those psychology tricks that feels counterintuitive at first because it challenges the belief that effort alone creates attraction. Effort matters, but effort without boundaries feels heavy. Boundaries feel secure. When you stop being overly available, something interesting happens. She starts leaning in. She becomes curious. She wonders what occupies your time. She notices that she doesn't have unlimited access to you, and that absence creates space for thought, imagination, and anticipation. That curiosity is not manipulation. It's human nature. It's how female psychology responds to value. Attraction grows in the space between encounters, not in constant exposure. This is where many men get it wrong. They believe attraction is built by constant presence, constant reassurance, constant pursuit. But attraction deepens when there is room to miss someone, room to wonder, room to feel desire form naturally instead of being pushed. Don't chase relentlessly. That is exhausting for both of you. Be centered. Let your life speak for you. When you are engaged in your goals, friendships, interests, and growth, you become emotionally grounded. That grounded energy is calming and compelling. It tells her that you are not seeking validation, but offering connection. That difference matters more than most men realize. Being less available does not mean being distant or indifferent. It means being intentional. It means showing up fully when you do show up, instead of being half present all the time. Quality over quantity, depth over frequency. When you respect your own time, others learn to respect it too. This is how attraction becomes mutual instead of one-sided. And yes, there is a noticeable shift when you apply this. Conversations feel lighter. Interactions feel more charged. She invests more. She reaches out more. She pays attention in a different way. Not because you demanded it, but because you created the conditions for it. Remember this: attraction isn't built by trying to be chosen. It's built by being a man who chooses his life first and invites someone into it. That is the foundation of how to fall in love in a healthy, lasting way. You must stop measuring your worth by how available you are. Your value is not proven by sacrifice alone. It is revealed through balance, direction, and self-respect. Don't be everywhere at once. Be somewhere meaningful. Focus on what drives you. Protect your time. Let her meet you where you stand, not where you bend. Scarcity, when rooted in purpose, becomes a quiet force. It doesn't shout. It doesn't explain. It simply exists. And once you embody it, you'll feel the difference in how women respond to you, speak to you, and invest in you. This isn't about control. It's about alignment. And when alignment replaces chasing, attraction becomes effortless, natural, and deeply magnetic. 2. Confidence beats looks every time. 2. Confidence beats looks every time. And that statement isn't a motivational slogan, it's a psychological reality that shows up again and again in how attraction actually works in the real world. Here's a fact many men resist at first, but eventually recognize as true. Women notice energy before appearance, presence before symmetry, and certainty before perfection. You could be average-looking, even rough around the edges, and still attract women consistently if you walk into a room grounded, calm, and comfortable in your own skin. On the other hand, a man with great looks who carries doubt in his posture, hesitation in his voice, and insecurity in his decisions can fade into the background almost instantly. Don't argue with this. Observe it. Confidence moves ahead of you before you say a word. That is why it beats looks every time. Confidence tells a woman, without explanation, that you value yourself, that you can handle life as it comes, and that being around you feels stable rather than uncertain. That feeling matters more than sharp features ever will. Be clear about this. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not loud behavior or forced bravado. It is quiet ownership. It is knowing who you are, accepting your flaws without defensiveness, and moving through the world with purpose instead of apology. Women are extremely sensitive to emotional signals. They notice hesitation. They notice over-apologizing. They notice the man who keeps checking for approval after every sentence. That behavior doesn't make you polite. It makes you unsure, and uncertainty drains attraction quickly. Don't confuse kindness with insecurity. You can be respectful and still be grounded. You can be calm without shrinking yourself. Confident men don't beg for validation. They don't fish for compliments. They don't need every woman to like them in order to feel whole. That independence creates space, and space creates curiosity. This is core female psychology. Women are drawn to men who feel complete, men who seem emotionally self-contained, men whose sense of worth doesn't fluctuate based on reactions. That energy feels safe, it feels steady, and it feels attractive. This is why confidence often becomes the invisible factor separating men who struggle despite good looks from men who effortlessly draw interest without trying too hard. Think about how this shows up in daily interactions. When you meet a woman and she makes casual conversation, don't rush to impress. Don't rush to justify your life. Maintain eye contact, smile naturally, speak at a calm pace. Let silence exist without panic. If she asks about your work, don't ask for approval by saying, "Do you like what I do?" Say instead, "I enjoy what I do. It keeps me focused and motivated." That one sentence communicates self-respect, direction, and satisfaction with your own life. That is masculine energy expressed correctly. You're not asking for permission to be proud. You're stating a fact. And that subtle shift carries more weight than any carefully staged photo ever could. Confidence also shows up in how you lead situations. Women notice when a man can make decisions without spiraling into overthinking, choosing a place to eat, planning an evening, handling a small problem without stress. These moments matter more than you think. Decisiveness signals competence. Competence signals security. Security builds attraction. Don't wait for her to tell you what to do. Don't freeze because you're afraid of making the wrong choice. Make a reasonable decision and move forward. That calm forward motion is deeply appealing. This is not about control, it's about direction. A man with direction feels easier to follow emotionally. Remember this. Women aren't just attracted to how a man looks. They're attracted to how he makes them feel when they're around him. Confidence gives you presence. Presence holds attention. Presence creates intrigue. It makes her lean in mentally before she ever does physically, and that intrigue is a powerful driver of attraction. Be careful not to confuse confidence with pretending. Women can sense performance. They can sense when confidence is borrowed instead of built. Real confidence comes from alignment between who you are and how you live. If your life feels empty to you, work on filling it. Build skills. Pursue goals. Strengthen your body. Strengthen your mind. Confidence grows naturally when you keep promises to yourself. That is how you become a high-value man in practice, not in theory. A high-value man doesn't announce his worth. He demonstrates it through consistency, self-respect, and emotional steadiness. He doesn't chase validation. He attracts attention by standing firmly in his own life. This is how you attract women without forcing outcomes. When you rely only on looks, you place your confidence on unstable ground. Looks change, attention shifts, but confidence rooted in character and purpose deepens over time. That depth is what women respond to long after first impressions fade. Be intentional about how you carry yourself. Stand straight, speak clearly, move without rushing. These small behaviors compound into presence. Don't minimize them. They are the physical expression of inner certainty. And inner certainty is contagious. People feel it. Women feel it immediately. This is why confidence consistently outweighs appearance in attraction. It speaks directly to female psychology, bypassing logic and going straight to instinct. In short, confidence is not optional if you want to build real attraction. You must stop hiding behind looks, excuses, or comparisons. Be accountable for your energy. Be proud of the life you are building, even if it's still in progress. Confidence does not require perfection. It requires ownership. Once you own who you are and where you're going, your presence changes, your conversations change, your interactions change, and women respond not to what you show them, but to who you are when you show up. That is the difference between being noticed and being remembered. That is the difference between hoping to attract women and naturally drawing them in. And once you embody that, you'll realize something important. Confidence didn't just make you more attractive to women. It made your life more solid, more focused, and more fulfilling overall. If this message hit home, don't just nod and move on, lock it in. Drop a comment right now with this sentence: I don't rely on looks, I lead with confidence. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp, grounded wisdom, and remember this every day. Women don't follow appearance. They respond to the man who believes in himself and moves with purpose. Third, don't be a nice guy. Third, don't be a nice guy. And before your guard goes up, listen carefully, because this is one of the most misunderstood lessons men learn too late in life, especially in a modern world that constantly tells you that approval equals value, that pleasing everyone is the path to love, and that avoiding conflict keeps you safe. It doesn't. Being a nice guy does not automatically make you attractive, respected, or desired, and in many cases it quietly does the opposite, because women are not drawn to men who say yes to everything, who twist themselves into emotional pretzels to keep the peace, or who abandon their own needs just to avoid discomfort. There is a critical difference between kindness and self-erasure, and most men blur that line without realizing the cost. Kindness is strength with intention. Being a pushover is fear wearing a friendly mask. When you are endlessly agreeable, when you never push back, when you sacrifice your values just to be liked, you silently communicate something dangerous, that your happiness depends on her approval. That dependency is not romantic. It is heavy. It suffocates attraction. Women don't want a man they have to carry emotionally. They want a partner who can stand on his own feet. As the philosopher Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, meaning that the man who lives by Old Stoic wisdom understands that self-respect sometimes costs approval, and he pays that price willingly. The nice guy often operates from insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear that if he disagrees or says no, he will lose her. But chasing approval has never created genuine desire. It creates tension, frustration, and eventually loss of respect. Women notice when a man lacks boundaries, when he lets things slide that matter to him, when he tolerates behavior he resents just to keep access to affection. And while they may not articulate it, it registers deeply. This man does not value himself. And if he doesn't value himself, how can she fully value him? Attraction thrives on polarity, not submission. Respectful, firm men stand out precisely because they are rare. They know when to say no, when to disagree calmly, and when to walk away without drama. That balance, warmth without neediness, strength without cruelty, is magnetic. It signals stability, emotional maturity, and self-command. Women feel safe around men who are grounded and principled, but they also feel alive around men who are not predictable in their compliance, men who do not collapse at the first sign of disagreement. The thrill does not come from chaos. It comes from certainty. Another brutal truth most nice guys avoid is this. In trying so hard to please, they often abandon themselves. They drop their hobbies, neglect their friendships, shrink their ambitions, and quietly orbit the relationship as if it were the center of their universe. That is not love, it is loss of identity. And nothing erodes attraction faster than a man who has nothing of his own to stand for. Women are drawn to men with direction, men who protect their time, men who pursue goals even when no one is applauding. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." A man living by Stoicism win principles does not announce his strength. He demonstrates it through consistency, discipline, and an iron mind that does not bend under emotional pressure. Being firm does not mean being rude. Being assertive does not mean being cold. It means being authentic. It means speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It means understanding that discomfort is temporary, but self-betrayal lingers. In modern life, dating apps, instant gratification, endless options, the man who can remain centered, who does not chase validation, who does not overinvest before respect is earned, stands apart immediately. He is not reacting, he is choosing. He is not begging to be liked, he is offering presence. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. Control what you can, your actions, your standards, your responses, and release what you cannot, including the need to be approved of by everyone. The nice guy hopes attraction will be given as a reward for good behavior. The grounded man knows attraction is a response to who he is. That difference changes everything. When you stop performing niceness and start practicing self-respect, people feel it. Your words carry more weight. Your silence becomes meaningful. Your yes matters because you are willing to say no. And paradoxically, when you no longer center your life around being chosen, you become far more desirable. This is how you build an iron mind, by refusing to outsource your worth, by standing calmly in your values, by understanding that kindness with backbone is far more powerful than endless accommodation. Women are not attracted to men who disappear into them. They are drawn to men who invite them into a full, already constructed life. Drop the act, keep the kindness, add conviction, live with purpose, master your emotions, and watch how differently the world and women respond when you finally stop trying to be nice and start being solid. 4. Have a life women can't control. Here's the truth most men never hear, and it needs to be said clearly, calmly, and without apology. If you want to understand what truly draws women in, you must build a life they cannot control, because attraction does not grow from submission or constant accommodation. It grows from self-respect, independence, and quiet certainty. And this is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks in modern dating, especially when viewed through the lens of female psychology and how to fall in love in a healthy, lasting way. Too many men drift through life on autopilot, reacting instead of deciding, adjusting instead of choosing, allowing their schedule, priorities, and emotional state to be shaped by whoever is closest to them, often believing that flexibility and constant availability equal care. But that belief quietly works against them because predictability without purpose drains tension, mystery, and desire. Wake up. Women are not drawn to men who surrender their direction. They are drawn to men who have one, a man who allows someone else to dictate how he spends his time, who he sees, what he pursues, and how he feels may think he is being loving, but what he is really communicating is uncertainty about his own value. And while attention can be pleasant at first, respect fades when leadership disappears. Be clear about this. Attraction is not created by chasing approval. It is created by standing firmly in your own life. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. When you have your own goals, routines, friendships, and ambitions, you naturally project stability and depth. And female psychology responds strongly to that because it signals safety without neediness and strength without pressure, which is exactly how to fall in love without fear or imbalance. Don't confuse being kind with being malleable. Don't confuse availability with value. A man who cancels his plans every time someone else calls, who abandons passions he once loved, or who reshapes his entire identity to fit another person's preferences, slowly erases the very qualities that made him interesting in the first place. And here is the part most men resist hearing: that behavior does not inspire closeness, it invites complacency. People tend to cherish what stands on its own. They take for granted what bends too easily. That is not cruelty. That is human nature. When your life revolves entirely around someone else, you place an unspoken burden on them to be your source of meaning, and that pressure quietly suffocates attraction, even if neither of you can explain why. Be grounded instead. Be a man whose happiness is rooted in purpose, not permission. That does not mean ignoring a woman or withholding care. It means balance. It means your joy, direction, and self-worth are not negotiable, not because you are cold, but because you are whole. Women are wired to notice independence because it signals emotional maturity and inner security. And those traits create a sense of intrigue that no amount of overgiving can replace. When you pursue your interests with discipline, maintain friendships that energize you, and structure your time according to values rather than convenience, you naturally become more engaging, more present, and more attractive without trying, which is why this principle sits at the core of so many effective psychology tricks taught by men who understand female psychology deeply and ethically. Be honest with yourself. Are you leading your life, or are you waiting to be led? Are you choosing your path, or are you adjusting it to avoid discomfort? Many men fail here not because they lack potential, but because they fear losing connection, so they overcompensate with compliance. Yet paradoxically, attraction grows when you respect yourself first, when your boundaries are clear, calm, and consistent. Don't explain them endlessly, live them. A woman does not need a man who is endlessly agreeable. She needs a man who knows where he stands and invites her into his world rather than abandoning it. That invitation feels meaningful because it is optional, not desperate. When she sees that your life is full, not chaotic but intentional, curiosity arises naturally. She wonders where she fits, not because she is competing, but because she recognizes something solid. That curiosity is the seed of desire, and desire is essential in how to fall in love in a way that feels alive rather than anxious. Stop shrinking yourself to be chosen. Start expanding your world so that connection becomes an addition, not a rescue. Be decisive with your time. Be selective with your energy. Be consistent with your values. These are not harsh rules. They are signals of self-trust, and self-trust is deeply attractive. A man who owns his choices, who says no without guilt and yes without hesitation, communicates confidence without raising his voice, and women feel that presence long before they analyze it. This is why men who seem calm, engaged in their work, committed to their growth, and comfortable being alone often attract attention effortlessly, while men who try too hard to please struggle to be seen. Don't live reactively. Live deliberately. That is the shift. When you stop being moldable, manageable, or overly adjustable, you stop chasing interest and start inspiring it. Independence is magnetic, not because it excludes others, but because it invites them into something real. And that is why so many men struggle despite good intentions. They ignore this principle, hoping effort alone will compensate for direction. It won't. Build a life that excites you. Protect it with quiet discipline. Share it without surrendering it. When you do, women do not feel the need to control you, because there is nothing to fix, nothing to manage, nothing to rescue. There is only a man who knows where he is going and welcomes companionship along the way. That understanding sits at the heart of timeless psychology tricks, reflects the deepest truths of female psychology, and reveals how to fall in love without losing yourself in the process. If this message hit home, don't just listen, act. Like the video, subscribe for more real-world psychology, and drop this sentence in the comments to lock it in your mind and your life. I lead my life. I don't hand over the steering wheel, because attraction doesn't come from pleasing. It comes from purpose, boundaries, and self-respect. Fifth, don't compliment excessively. Don't compliment excessively, and understand why this matters far more than most men realize, because here's a reality check that can quietly change how women experience you. Constant compliments do not build attraction. They drain it. And while many men believe praise is the safest path to connection, overdoing it actually removes tension, mystery, and emotional spark, which are essential if you want to attract women in a way that feels natural and lasting. When you repeatedly tell a woman how beautiful she is, how stunning she looks, or how perfect everything about her seems, your words slowly lose weight, not because she dislikes kindness, but because predictability kills curiosity, and curiosity is one of the strongest forces in female psychology. Don't misunderstand this. A sincere compliment at the right moment can be powerful. But when praise becomes constant, automatic, and expected, it stops being meaningful and starts signaling that you are trying too hard to secure approval. Be honest with yourself. If you are complimenting nonstop, ask why. Is it appreciation, or is it anxiety disguised as affection? That distinction matters. Women are drawn to men who feel grounded in themselves, men whose sense of worth doesn't rise and fall based on how they are received. And that is a core trait of a high-value man who understands how attraction actually works. When compliments flow endlessly, they flatten emotional contrast. Everything becomes warm, agreeable, and smooth. And while comfort has its place, desire thrives on contrast. Women crave tension, curiosity, and a sense that there is more to discover. They are drawn to masculine energy that feels steady, but not submissive, confident, but not needy. That energy doesn't come from flattery. It comes from presence. It comes from a man who listens, observes, and speaks with intention rather than impulse. Many men confuse kindness with validation. They believe that if they say enough nice things, attraction will grow automatically. But attraction is not a reward for politeness. It is a response to character, confidence, and emotional depth. Don't rely on praise as your main tool. Be the man whose silence can be as engaging as his words. Be the man who doesn't rush to fill every moment with reassurance. That restraint creates space, and space creates intrigue. In female psychology, intrigue is fuel. It keeps attention alive. It keeps interaction dynamic. A man who has his own opinions, who isn't afraid to disagree thoughtfully, who can tease lightly or challenge an idea without hostility, stands out immediately because he feels real, present, and mentally engaged. That kind of interaction is far more memorable than 100 surface-level compliments. Challenging her does not mean being rude. It does not mean dismissing her feelings or trying to win arguments. It means you are willing to be honest instead of agreeable, curious instead of compliant. It means you are participating in the conversation, not auditioning for approval. That is attractive because it signals self-trust. And self-trust is a cornerstone of masculine energy that naturally helps you attract women without forcing anything. When interaction becomes dynamic, when there is playful tension, laughter, and even occasional disagreement, something powerful happens. The connection feels alive. Constant compliments, on the other hand, create predictability. And predictable interactions fade into the background. Challenge creates engagement. Engagement creates attraction. Most men fail here not because they lack charm, but because they fear losing connection. They believe that if they push back, tease, or express a differing view, the woman will pull away. The opposite is often true. When done with warmth and confidence, playful challenges and calm disagreements make a woman lean in emotionally. She begins to see you as a man with substance, someone who isn't easily swayed, someone whose attention feels earned rather than guaranteed. That perception builds respect, and respect is inseparable from attraction. Another common mistake is over-complimenting yourself in an attempt to balance things out. Men who brag, oversell their achievements, or constantly highlight their own value often believe they are projecting confidence, but what they are actually revealing is a need for validation. Women are not drawn to men who advertise themselves aggressively. They are drawn to men who are comfortable letting their actions speak. A high-value man doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth. He demonstrates it through consistency, calmness, and how he carries himself. Don't talk about your value. Live it. Don't stack compliments on her or on yourself, hoping attraction will appear. Build curiosity instead. Create conversations that make her think, smile, and feel something unexpected. That is how you attract women at a deeper level. Be selective with praise. When you do compliment, make it specific, grounded, and tied to something real, not just appearance, but character, humor, insight, or how she handles a situation. That kind of compliment lands because it feels seen, not sprayed. You must understand that attraction grows from polarity. Polarity requires difference. If you are always agreeing, always praising, always reassuring, you remove the very contrast that creates desire. Be calm, be confident, be willing to pause instead of performing. Don't chase reactions. Let them come to you. That shift alone transforms how women respond to you. When you stop leaning on compliments and start leading interactions with curiosity and presence, your masculine energy becomes palpable. Women respond to how you make them feel, not how often you flatter them. In short, stop using compliments as a strategy to get attention or affection. Use them as accents, not foundations. Be the man who creates playful tension, thoughtful conversation, and emotional movement. Stand firm in your beliefs. Express interest without surrendering your center. That balance is what separates men who struggle from men who naturally attract women. Master this, and you'll notice a powerful change. Women begin responding to your energy rather than your words, to your presence rather than your praise, because attraction isn't built by saying the right things nonstop. It's built by being the right kind of man, grounded, confident, and quietly compelling. 6. Show ambition, not just stability. Show ambition, not just stability, because stability alone is never the reason desire stays alive. And every man between 35 and 70 needs to hear this clearly, calmly, and without illusion. Having a steady job, paying your bills on time, owning a clean apartment, and being dependable makes you responsible, but it does not make you compelling. It makes you predictable. And predictability, without direction, does not ignite attraction in modern life or in human nature itself. Marcus Aurelius warned centuries ago, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And being one means moving forward with intention, not standing still behind routines that merely keep you safe. Women are not drawn to men who are only secure. They are drawn to men who are going somewhere, men who carry an internal fire, a quiet hunger to grow, to build, to improve, to test themselves against resistance. Ambition is the visible signal of that inner momentum. Stability keeps things from falling apart, but ambition makes things rise. Women subconsciously recognize this distinction even when they cannot articulate it, because ambition communicates strength without words, vision without explanation, and self-belief without performance. That is why so many men misunderstand attraction by confusing reliability with magnetism, assuming that if they just maintain order long enough, someone will choose them, when in reality, attraction responds to motion, not maintenance. Ambition is motion made visible. In modern life, surrounded by comfort, automation, and convenience, the absence of ambition is more noticeable than ever because too many men settle into routines that feel safe but lead nowhere, repeating the same days, the same conversations, the same goals year after year while expecting different outcomes. Women notice this stagnation quickly, not with criticism, but with quiet disengagement, because human nature is drawn to growth, to evolution, to forward energy. A man without ambition feels emotionally stationary, even if his life looks organized on the surface. Ambition does not mean reckless risk-taking or chasing empty status, and it certainly does not require wealth or fame. It means caring deeply about becoming more capable than yesterday, more skilled than last year, more disciplined than before, whether that shows up through mastering a craft, advancing a career, building a business, improving physical health, strengthening character, or pursuing a meaningful project that demands effort and sacrifice. Women feel the difference immediately because ambition signals that a man is internally driven rather than externally validated, that he does not need permission to grow, applause to act, or constant reassurance to move forward. Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That sentence alone captures why ambition is attractive. It reflects alignment between thought and action, between values and behavior, between intention and execution. Many men fall into the comfort trap, telling themselves they have earned rest, earned ease, earned stability. And while rest has its place, permanent comfort slowly erodes purpose. A man without purpose becomes passive, not because he lacks ability, but because he has stopped demanding more from himself. Women are not drawn to passivity. They are drawn to presence, direction, and engagement with life. Ambition communicates that your life is not on pause, that you are not waiting to be chosen, that you are actively shaping your future regardless of who is watching. This is where Old Stoic wisdom aligns perfectly with modern psychology. Stoicism never taught withdrawal from life. It taught mastery within it, discipline over impulse, progress over stagnation, and an iron mind that does not collapse into comfort when growth is available. Ambition separates men who endure life from men who lead themselves through it. Leadership begins internally, long before it ever shows up externally, because a man who challenges himself daily carries a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself, does not need to persuade, and does not need to explain. Women feel safe in the presence of forward motion, not because ambition guarantees outcomes, but because it guarantees effort, resilience, and adaptability. Modern relationships fail not because men lack stability, but because they lack direction, because they confuse being harmless with being valuable, predictable with purposeful. Women may respect stability, but respect alone does not create desire, connection, or emotional investment. Ambition keeps attraction alive by signaling that the future with you is unfolding, not frozen. Ambition also protects a man from emotional dependency, because when your life has direction, you do not cling, you do not over-explain, and you do not seek validation through approval. This emotional independence is deeply attractive, not as a tactic, but as a byproduct of living intentionally. Seneca wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Ambition is preparation in motion, the daily choice to sharpen your edge, expand your capacity, and remain engaged with life instead of drifting through it. Women notice when a man invests in himself, not in flashy ways, but in consistent ways, when he trains his body, sharpens his mind, manages his time, and refuses to let years pass without growth. Ambition tells a story about the future, and people are drawn to stories that are still being written. That is why stability without ambition feels empty over time, why relationships stagnate when one partner stops evolving, and why men who carry purpose often attract without chasing because they are not trying to be impressive. They are too busy becoming better. Ambition also reflects courage, not loud courage, but quiet courage, the willingness to face uncertainty, to risk discomfort, and to pursue goals without guarantees. Courage has always been attractive because it signals adaptability in an unpredictable world. In Stoicism Win philosophy, ambition is not ego-driven, it is virtue-driven. It is the disciplined pursuit of excellence within your control, the refusal to waste potential, and the commitment to self-respect through action. This creates an iron mind that remains steady regardless of external approval or rejection. Women sense this steadiness not as emotional distance, but as emotional reliability rooted in self-direction, because a man who knows where he is going does not panic when things shift, does not collapse under pressure, and does not outsource his worth to others. Ambition also prevents resentment, because men who stop growing often start blaming, while men who keep building remain focused, grounded, and constructive. Modern life offers endless distractions disguised as comfort. Ambition cuts through that noise by giving your days structure, meaning, and momentum. That is why women are drawn to men who exist with purpose rather than merely occupy space. Ambition does not need to be loud. It needs to be consistent, visible through habits rather than promises, through effort rather than explanation. Consistency creates trust without words. When you live with ambition, you communicate that you are not finished, not settling, and not waiting. That energy is contagious, grounding, and compelling. The truth men must accept is simple and unchanging across generations. Women may appreciate your stability, but they fall for your ambition, because ambition speaks to who you are becoming, not just who you are today. Stop believing that maintaining the status quo is enough. Stop mistaking order for direction. Stop assuming comfort equals value. Start treating your life as a project worthy of effort, discipline, and vision, because ambition sets you apart from the average man, not by comparison, but by contrast. It remains one of the clearest signals of strength, self-respect, and quiet magnetism. This is Old Stoic wisdom applied to modern life. This is Stoicism Win, lived through action. This is the cultivation of an iron mind that does not settle for stagnation. And when you carry ambition with calm discipline, you do not need psychology tricks, because attraction follows momentum, and momentum begins with a man who chooses to move forward every single day. If this hit home, don't let it stay as just a thought. Most men settle for comfort, average routines, safe lives, and then they wonder why nothing changes. You're here because you know stability isn't enough. Drive is what creates attraction. So make it real. Drop this in the comments and claim it. I don't just exist, I move forward with purpose. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, because women don't fall for comfort, they fall for ambition in motion. 7th, be mysterious, not transparent. 7th, be mysterious, not transparent, and understand this clearly, because this is where many men quietly lose attraction without realizing it. Being an open book does not make you compelling, it makes you predictable, and predictability drains curiosity fast. Don't confuse honesty with instant full access, because women are not drawn to men who reveal everything up front. They are drawn to depth, contrast, and the slow unfolding of layers. That is female psychology at work, and it has nothing to do with games and everything to do with human nature. When you explain every thought, narrate every emotion, and expose your entire history in the early stages, you remove tension, you remove intrigue, and you remove the desire to lean in because there is nothing left to discover, and discovery is the fuel of attraction. That is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks men ignore when learning how to fall in love in a healthy, lasting way. Don't overshare your struggles before trust is built. Don't explain your schedule as if you owe access. Don't justify your silence, your choices, or your pace. Be calm instead. Be grounded. Be comfortable with space, because mystery is not secrecy, and it is not manipulation. It is restraint. It is depth. It is allowing someone to earn proximity rather than flooding them with information in hopes of being liked. Too many men believe transparency equals trust, so they dump emotions early, they unload past wounds, they reveal every plan, every insecurity, every intention, thinking honesty will create safety, but what it often creates is emotional overload, and overload kills attraction quietly, because when everything is given freely, nothing feels valuable. Be selective with vulnerability, because vulnerability is powerful only when it is timed well, not when it is rushed. That is how female psychology responds to emotional pacing, and it is one of the psychology tricks that separates men who spark curiosity from men who get emotionally filed away. Don't explain yourself when clarity already exists. Don't chase understanding. Don't fill silence just to ease your own discomfort. Instead, hold space. Let pauses breathe. Let conversations end naturally, because silence after clarity creates presence, and presence creates interest. Mystery also signals confidence, because a man who values his time does not feel compelled to account for every moment. A man who respects himself does not rush to prove his worth, and a man who is comfortable with who he is does not seek validation through over-disclosure. That is how to fall in love without losing yourself, and that is how attraction stays alive instead of burning out quickly. Be intentional with what you share. Reveal layers gradually. Allow her to invest curiosity and effort, because investment deepens emotional connection, and when she leans in to understand you, attraction grows naturally, not forcefully. Don't be cold. Don't be distant. Don't be unclear. But also don't be fully transparent before trust has been earned, because transparency without boundaries is not strength. It is leakage, and attraction needs structure to breathe. Be warm but composed, open but contained, present but not fully exposed. That balance is what keeps interest alive over time. Remember, mystery does not mean hiding your values or intentions. It means not rushing intimacy before it is ready. It means letting moments unfold, letting stories be discovered, letting connection deepen at its own pace. And that pacing aligns perfectly with female psychology and the way attraction forms on a subconscious level. Stop trying to impress with information. Stop selling yourself through explanations. Stop thinking more words equal more connection, because they don't. Clarity plus calm always wins. Be patient, be grounded, be centered, because mystery is not created by tricks. It is created by self-respect, emotional discipline, and comfort with silence. That is one of the most effective psychology tricks men overlook when trying to understand how to fall in love in a way that lasts. In the end, attraction is not built by transparency alone. It is built by presence, pacing, and depth. So don't rush to reveal everything. Don't over-explain. Don't overshare. Let discovery happen naturally, because mystery keeps curiosity alive, and curiosity is what keeps attraction breathing long after the first spark fades. All right, my friend, that's where we'll land this. If this message made you uncomfortable, good. That's usually where the truth lives. Here's my sincere advice to you. Stop trying to be liked. Start respecting yourself first. Build your own standards. Protect your time. Chase your purpose, not applause. When you live for yourself, something powerful happens. People feel it, especially women. Respect comes before desire, always. So ask yourself tonight, honestly, Am I shaping my life to earn approval? Or am I becoming a man I respect? If you choose the second path, you won't need tricks. Attraction will follow naturally. Thanks for being here with me. Stay grounded, stay sharp, and remember, don't please the world. Command it. 9 hidden signs she's deeply invested, but pulling away from fear. Psychology tricks. Most men get this wrong, so let's set it straight from the start. When a woman pulls back, it doesn't automatically mean she's losing interest. Sometimes it means the opposite. She's feeling too much, and that intensity scares her more than silence ever could. Many men carry a simple, dangerous belief. If she likes you, she stays close. If she creates distance, she's done. That assumption has destroyed more real connections than bad timing ever did, because what many women fear isn't you, it's what happens inside them when they care deeply. And as Paulo Coelho put it, one is loved because one is loved. No reason is needed for loving. But the human heart still tries to find reasons, still tries to protect itself, especially when love starts to feel real. That's why you might notice the shift that messes with your head. One moment she's warm, open, present, then suddenly she's slower to reply, less expressive, more guarded. You start replaying everything. You wonder if you said something wrong, if there's someone else, if you're about to be replaced. And most men respond in two predictable ways, chasing harder or shutting down colder, both of which usually push her further away. Here's what many women won't say out loud. Real emotional investment can feel like stepping out into the open with no armor. When she realizes she's attached, her guard doesn't always drop, it often rises. Not because you failed, but because now you matter. Now the stakes feel higher. Now her mind starts running scenarios: loss, disappointment, abandonment, regret. Pulling back can become self-protection, not rejection, a way to regain control over feelings that feel bigger than she expected. The mistake men make is reading fear as disinterest and reacting with panic instead of leadership. And that's what this is about, recognizing the hidden signs she's deeply invested, even while she's backing up because she's afraid of caring too much. No games, no manipulation, just a heart trying to stay safe. If you want clarity instead of confusion, don't reach for tricks. Stay calm. Pay attention. Let her feel safe without you begging, accusing, or disappearing. That's how you keep what's real. 1. She gets quiet right after emotional closeness. One of the most misunderstood signs that she is deeply invested is this: she gets quiet right after emotional closeness. You share a powerful moment. She opens up. She tells you something personal about her past, her fears, or how safe she feels with you. The connection feels real. Then suddenly, she goes quiet. Her messages get shorter. Her tone softens. The warmth seems to cool. Most men panic here. They assume she regrets opening up. They assume she lost interest. Don't jump to that conclusion. Be wiser than that. When a woman reveals something vulnerable, she crosses an invisible emotional line. That is not small. That is significant. The moment she lets you see behind the curtain, attachment accelerates. Feelings move faster than logic. And when she feels that shift inside herself, fear can step in just as quickly. Not fear of you. Fear of how much she now cares. Fear of being seen too clearly. Fear of losing emotional control. Fear of being hurt later if this falls apart. So she pulls back, not dramatically, not with anger, but subtly. Quieter. More measured. Less expressive. From your perspective, it feels confusing. From hers, it feels like hitting the brakes before she falls too fast. A woman who is indifferent does not need recovery time after closeness. She stays light, detached, casual. But a woman who feels something real suddenly becomes aware of risk. Emotional investment raises the stakes. That quiet phase is not rejection. It is regulation. She is trying to slow her own emotions down. She is trying to protect her heart without losing the connection. Now listen carefully. This is where many men destroy momentum. They demand reassurance. What happened? Why are you acting different? Did I do something? Don't interrogate. Pressure confirms her fear that emotions with you will become overwhelming. On the other side, some men respond with cold distance. They mirror her silence with pride. They withdraw completely. Don't do that either. Sudden coldness signals instability. It tells her that connection with you is fragile and unsafe. Both reactions, pressure and withdrawal, push her further into defense mode. What actually works is steadiness, calm presence, consistency. You must become the stable ground she can stand on while she sorts through her own emotions. Respond normally. Stay warm but not intense. Give her space without disappearing. That is strength. That is emotional leadership. Short, clear, grounded. When she senses that her moment of vulnerability did not scare you, did not change you, did not trigger drama, something powerful happens. Safety grows. She realizes she can open up without losing control of the situation. She learns that closeness with you does not equal chaos. And here is the truth most men never understand. Silence after intimacy is often a sign that the intimacy mattered. If it meant nothing, there would be no retreat, no recalibration, no internal pause. The quiet is not emptiness. It is processing. It is her heart catching up to her courage. Be patient. Don't overreact. Don't dramatize. Don't chase reassurance. Hold your frame. Stay centered. When you respond with calm confidence instead of insecurity, you transform what could have been distance into deeper trust. That is how mature connection is built. Not through emotional pressure, not through panic, through steadiness, through restraint, through quiet strength. 2. She overthinks everything you say. When a woman begins to overthink your words, understand this clearly. It is not chaos. It is not drama. It is not instability. It is investment. Before her feelings deepened, your messages floated past her like background music. Pleasant, light, forgettable. But once you matter, your words carry weight. They echo. They linger. They become something she replays in her quiet moments. She won't tell you this directly. Most women won't. Instead, she asks herself silent questions in the privacy of her own mind. Did I talk too much? Did that joke bother him? Did I sound foolish? Does he feel this too? Am I stepping closer while he's stepping back? That mental loop is not about trying to control you. It is about protecting herself. It is about vulnerability. When someone begins to matter, the heart becomes careful. And careful can look confusing from the outside. Many men misread this phase. They label it as neediness. They assume she's becoming overly sensitive. Don't make that mistake. True neediness comes from emptiness, from someone looking for validation to fill a void. What you're seeing here is not emptiness. It's attachment forming. It's emotional risk. That is very different. She's cautious because she values the connection. She's measuring her steps because she doesn't want to fall alone. And here is where it becomes tricky. You may notice inconsistency. One day she's warm, open, laughing easily. The next day she seems slightly reserved, less expressive, pulling back just a little. Don't jump to conclusions. That shift is usually not manipulation. It's internal conflict. Part of her wants to lean in. Another part wants to stay safe. She's asking herself, is this real? Is this stable? Is he steady? Fear doesn't erase interest. It complicates it. Especially for men between 35 and 70, this matters. At this stage in life, you value stability. You don't have time for emotional games. Good. Then don't treat this like a game. Treat it like what it is, a signal that she cares enough to be careful. You must understand this. A woman who doesn't care does not overthink. She does not replay your tone. She does not analyze your pauses. She does not wonder if you meant what you said. She simply moves on. Indifference is quiet. Investment is noisy inside the mind. Overthinking is exhausting. It drains her. She won't say that, but it does. So what helps? Clarity through consistency. Not grand speeches. Not dramatic declarations. Not emotional pressure. Just steady behavior. Predictable communication. Follow through. If you say you'll call, call. If you say you enjoyed your time, mean it. If you care, show it calmly and repeatedly. Consistency quiets her mind. Stability lowers her fear. Predictability builds safety. Don't tease her vulnerability. Don't mock her sensitivity. Be the man who makes emotional space feel secure. That is strength. You don't need to over-explain yourself. You need to be steady. That is enough. When she overthinks your words, she is revealing something powerful without saying it. You matter. Handle that carefully. Be calm. Be clear. Be consistent. That is how you turn fear into trust. That is how you lead without force. That is how you build something real. 3. She pulls back when things start feeling real. When a connection shifts from light and casual to emotionally significant, something powerful happens beneath the surface. Feelings become real. Stakes become real. And when stakes rise, fear often rises with them. Not fear of you, but fear of loss, vulnerability, and what it means to care deeply. As Carl Jung once said, where love rules, there is no will to power. Real love requires surrender, and surrender can feel risky. So she instinctively creates space, not as a tactic, not as manipulation, but as protection. This is not a strategy. It is self-preservation. You must understand this clearly. When emotions deepen, uncertainty appears. The heart asks, what if this falls apart? What if I lose control? What if I care more than he does? That internal tension can cause her to step back just as things begin to feel meaningful. And many men misread that step. They assume loss of interest. They assume rejection. They react with pressure. Or they disappear to teach a lesson. Both responses destroy momentum. Both come from ego. Neither comes from strength. Pressure makes it worse. Chasing tightens the knot. Questioning her feelings too aggressively forces her deeper into retreat. On the other hand, withdrawing completely sends a signal that confirms her fear. That closeness leads to instability. You must not swing emotionally. You must not react impulsively. Stability is power. Calm is leadership. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When she pulls back, your job is not to panic. Your job is to remain grounded. Understand this. Pulling back does not mean she is stepping away from you. Often, it means she is standing at the edge of something meaningful and feeling the weight of it. The closer she feels, the more real it becomes. The more real it becomes, the more vulnerable she feels. Vulnerability is uncomfortable, especially for someone who has been hurt before. So she tests distance. She slows communication. She needs space to process. That is not disinterest. That is emotional calibration. Modern life amplifies this dynamic. We live in a world of instant messaging, instant reactions, instant assumptions. A delayed reply becomes a crisis. A quiet evening becomes doubt. But maturity, especially for men over 35, requires emotional steadiness. You are not 20 anymore. You do not chase signals with anxiety. You observe. You assess. You respond with composure. Real connection is not built through urgency. It is built through patience. So what do? Stay present without pushing. Let the connection breathe. Keep your energy steady. When you speak, speak calmly. When you act, act consistently. Show interest without demanding reassurance. That balance communicates strength. That balance communicates security. And security dissolves fear faster than pressure ever could. Remember what Ernest Hemingway said, the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. Trust does not mean blind optimism. It means giving space without collapsing your standards. You do not beg. You do not over-explain. You remain centered. You continue living your life fully. You maintain purpose. That quiet confidence creates safety. If she is deeply invested but afraid, your steadiness becomes the anchor. Your calm becomes the signal that closeness is not chaos. When she sees that your interest does not waver under tension, respect grows. Attraction stabilizes. Emotional safety strengthens. Pulling back is not always retreat. Sometimes it is reflection. Sometimes it is her heart catching up to her feelings. Do not confuse movement with meaning. Watch patterns, not moments. Measure consistency over time. Master this mindset and you master the situation. You stop reacting. You start leading. You create space for real intimacy to develop naturally. And when a woman feels safe enough to step forward again, it will not be forced. It will be chosen. That is the victory. That is emotional strength. That is how a man wins in love, by standing firm when emotions fluctuate and by remaining calm when things begin to matter most. 4. She becomes more observant of you than before. When a woman starts noticing small changes in your tone, your schedule, your energy, that is not random curiosity. That is emotional investment sharpening her awareness. Before feelings deepen, she enjoys your presence. After feelings deepen, she studies your consistency. She remembers details you forgot you mentioned. She notices if your enthusiasm dips. She senses when your mood shifts. And sometimes, instead of asking directly, she pulls back slightly to observe more clearly. Not to trap you, not to manipulate, but to assess safety. Understand this clearly: indifference does not observe. It drifts, but investment pays attention. She may ask subtle questions about your plans. She may casually bring up something you said weeks ago. She may become quieter while watching how you respond under pressure. This is not interrogation. This is evaluation. When she cares, she wants to know if your behavior aligns with your words. Many men misread this phase as suspicion. They feel judged. They become defensive. Don't do that. Defensiveness signals instability. Calm transparency signals strength. If your actions match your promises, you have nothing to fear. If you say you value her, show it consistently. If you say you are serious, act seriously. Emotional safety grows when patterns remain steady over time. Here is the deeper psychology. When attachment forms, the brain shifts into prediction mode. She is unconsciously asking, is this man reliable long-term? And reliability is not proven by grand gestures. It is proven by repetition, by calm presence, by stable character. Be aware of this. She is not testing your perfection. She is measuring your consistency. Perfection is impossible. Consistency is powerful. Don't panic under observation. Don't perform. Don't exaggerate effort. Just be aligned. When she sees that your steady behavior does not change with emotional fluctuations, her internal anxiety decreases. She relaxes. She invests more openly. Investment makes her attentive. And attention is not a threat. It is a sign that you matter. Be the same man on your best day and your uncertain day. That predictability builds trust. And trust builds permanence. 5. She tests distance instead of asking for reassurance. She will not always say, "Do you care about me?" She will not always admit, "I'm afraid of losing you." Instead, she creates space and watches what you do with it. That is the test. Not a game. Not manipulation. Protection. When a woman is deeply invested but scared, distance feels safer than vulnerability. Asking for reassurance requires exposure. Pulling back requires nothing. So she pulls back. Then she observes. If she steps away, will you lean in calmly? If she goes quiet, will you remain steady? If she slows down, will you panic or will you stay grounded? Understand this clearly. She is not measuring your intensity. She is measuring your stability. There is a difference. Intensity is loud. Stability is quiet. Intensity burns fast. Stability lasts. Many men fail here because they react instead of respond. They either match her distance out of pride, "Oh, you're pulling away? Fine." Or they overcorrect and flood her with messages, pressure, and emotional urgency. Don't do that. Matching her distance confirms her fear that connection is fragile. Over-pursuing confirms her fear that closeness becomes overwhelming. You must choose a third path. Calm presence. When she creates space, do not chase. But do not disappear. Stay consistent. Send the message. Make the call. Keep your tone warm but controlled. That is strength. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Her distance is an outside event. Your response is within your control. If you allow her pullback to disturb your center, you fail the test. If you remain steady, predictable, and emotionally balanced, you pass without even announcing it. Here's what is really happening psychologically. She is asking one silent question: is he safe? Not safe in the physical sense. Safe emotionally. Safe in consistency. Safe in patience. Safe in not exploding when things feel uncertain. Many men believe passion proves love. It does not. Consistency proves safety. And safety builds trust. That is what she is scanning for. That is what she is testing. Do not confuse her retreat with lack of interest. If she were uninterested, she would detach cleanly. No tests, no subtle checking, no observing your reactions. Indifference is simple. Fear is complicated. Fear pulls back while still caring deeply. So when she tests distance, she is not asking for fireworks. She is asking for emotional reliability. Can you handle space without spiraling? Can you handle silence without accusation? Can you handle uncertainty without drama? Be the man who can. Modern dating amplifies this pattern. Texting delays, social media ambiguity, busy schedules, mixed signals. In this environment, insecurity multiplies easily. So when she pulls away slightly, don't assume rejection. Don't send paragraphs demanding clarity. Don't punish her with coldness. That is emotional reactivity. Instead, demonstrate calm leadership of your own emotions. Keep your rhythm. Keep your direction. Keep your standards. Consistency is attractive because it signals inner control. It says, I am not shaken by temporary shifts. And that steadiness relaxes her nervous system more than grand romantic gestures ever could. Over-pursuing overwhelms her because it feels like pressure. Matching distance feels like abandonment. Calm consistency feels like safety. That is the sweet spot. Remember this. She is not testing whether you can chase her. She is testing whether you can remain grounded. Big difference. Chasing is impulse. Grounded presence is discipline. And discipline in love is rare. So when she steps back, don't panic. Don't overreact. Don't withdraw to protect your ego. Stay balanced. Stay warm. Stay predictable. That is how you demonstrate emotional maturity. That is how you show her that connection with you is not chaotic, it is stable. And when she realizes that her small retreat did not shake you, did not scare you, did not push you into extremes, something shifts inside her. Fear softens. Trust grows. She steps closer on her own, not because you chased, not because you pressured, but because you proved, through calm consistency, that you are safe to invest in. 6. She suddenly tries to act low maintenance. When a woman who once expressed her needs openly begins to downplay them, you must pay attention. This is not indifference. This is investment mixed with fear. A woman does not shrink her needs because they disappeared. She shrinks them because they matter, because they feel big, because they feel risky. And risk feels dangerous when the heart is involved. As Maya Angelou said, have enough courage to trust love one more time. Many people want that courage. Few feel safe enough to show it. When she suddenly says, it's fine, more often than before, when she stops asking for reassurance, when she laughs off something that clearly touched her, do not assume she has become easier. Assume she has become careful. From the outside, it looks like independence, calm, self-containment. From the inside, it is fear management. She is calculating emotional exposure. She is asking herself, if I show how much I care, will he pull away? So she pulls back first, not to leave, to protect. In today's world, where everyone is told not to seem needy, where dating advice teaches detachment as power, many women would rather appear low maintenance than risk being misunderstood. Social media glorifies nonchalance. Modern culture rewards coolness. But real connection requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels dangerous when you truly care. That is the paradox. You must understand this clearly. A woman who feels nothing does not adjust her behavior. She drifts. She disconnects. She invests elsewhere. But a woman who cares and becomes quieter is often watching you more closely than ever. She hopes you will notice the shift. She hopes you will lean in. She hopes you will ask the question she is afraid to ask herself. As Brené Brown teaches, vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. Remember that. She is not pulling back because she is unsure about you. She may be pulling back because she is too sure, and that certainty scares her. This is where most men make the mistake. They interpret her silence as stability. They think, great, no drama. They relax. They stop checking in. They assume everything is fine because she says it is. Do not make that mistake. Emotional awareness matters more than intensity. Strength in relationships is not about being unbothered. It is about being perceptive. If she stops initiating deeper conversations, you initiate them. If she minimizes something that once mattered to her, you gently bring it back into the light. Not with interrogation, with leadership, calm, steady presence. Be the man who is not threatened by emotion. Be the man who does not panic when feelings deepen. Be the man who sees through the mask without shaming her for wearing it. That is power. Quiet power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." Her hesitation is not a wall. It is an invitation. It is your opportunity to show steadiness. When she tests whether it is safe to care more, you answer with consistency. Not grand gestures. Consistency. Not pressure. Presence. Understand this principle. When a woman tries to act like she needs less, it often means she is afraid of how much she actually needs. And when she is afraid of needing you, it means she values you. That is not a signal to withdraw. That is a signal to rise, to respond with clarity, to reassure without being asked, to create an environment where honesty feels safer than pretending. In modern relationships, especially for men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, emotional intelligence is the new strength. You do not win by being distant. You win by being grounded. You do not win by ignoring subtle shifts. You win by noticing them. So pay attention. Notice patterns. Notice tone. Notice the difference between true independence and guarded attachment. Do not chase. Do not overreact. But do not ignore. Ask better questions. Offer steady reassurance. Show through action that real connection does not scare you. When she senses that her deeper feelings will not push you away, the mask drops. The low-maintenance act fades. What remains is authenticity. And authenticity builds loyalty. Master this moment, and you master the dynamic. Stay calm. Stay aware. Led with emotional strength. That is how you build something real. 7. She pulls away because you matter more than you think. Let that sink in. Not less. More. Sometimes when a woman creates distance, it is not doubt about you. It is doubt about herself in the presence of something that feels real. As Eric Fromm once said, love is an act of will. Real connection asks for courage. And courage exposes vulnerability. When you begin to matter, you also gain the power to disappoint, to leave, to shift. That power alone can make her step back and reassess her own heart. Most men misread this moment. They assume retreat equals rejection. So they chase for reassurance. Or they go cold to protect their pride. Both reactions are ego-driven. Both miss the emotional truth. The issue is not your worth. The issue is the emotional weight of caring. When feelings deepen, risk increases. And not everyone is immediately comfortable with risk. Especially in modern dating, where options are endless, attention is cheap, and commitment feels rare. Listen carefully. When a man becomes significant, he becomes emotionally influential. Not harmful, not threatening. Influential. She begins to imagine outcomes. She imagines losing him. She imagines giving more than she planned. That inner conflict can create space. Not because she wants distance from you, but because she is trying to regulate her own emotions. That is not rejection. That is processing. Now here is where many men unintentionally add fuel to the fire. Inconsistency. Mixed signals. Strong interest one week, confusion the next. Words without aligned action. Attention without stability. You may think attraction is enough to carry momentum. It is not. Attraction sparks. Consistency builds. And as Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. If your behavior is unpredictable, she will believe that instability is the pattern, and her caution will grow. Understand this clearly. Emotional safety is not built on charm. It is not built on chemistry. It is built on calm, steady behavior over time. That is strength. That is leadership. When she senses steadiness, her nervous system relaxes. When she senses uncertainty, she protects herself. Not dramatically, quietly. If she pulls away and you respond with silence, games, or calculated detachment, you confirm her fear. You teach her that caring leads to instability, and she will detach with dignity. Cleanly. No chaos. Just quiet closure. Do not panic. Do not chase. Do not withdraw. Be steady. That is the instruction. Stay emotionally grounded. Keep your communication clear. Continue your life with purpose. Show interest without desperation. Show consistency without pressure. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Her temporary distance is outside your control. Your character is not. At the same time, do not become passive. Leadership matters. Clarity matters. If you sense confusion, address it calmly. Say what you feel. State your intentions. A woman cannot relax into connection if she feels she is carrying the emotional direction alone. She does not need perfection. She needs steadiness. This is the crossroads where men either evolve or repeat old cycles. The evolved man does not beg. He does not disappear. He remains composed. He continues forward. He understands that fear around connection is often a sign of depth, not disinterest. Repeat this to yourself. If she is pulling away because I matter, my job is not to react emotionally. My job is to respond with stability. My job is to demonstrate that caring about me does not come with chaos. That is power. Quiet power. In today's world of instant gratification and disposable attention, the rarest trait is emotional reliability. Become that. Be the man whose presence feels calm, not confusing. Be the man whose words match his actions. Be the man who does not crumble when emotions get complex. Because sparks create excitement, but safety creates commitment. And if you master this distinction, you do not just win her back into closeness. You master yourself. And that victory changes every relationship you will ever have. 8. She hides her vulnerability behind logic. When a woman begins explaining her emotional distance with calm, practical reasons, understand this, something deeper is moving beneath the surface. Logic becomes armor when the heart feels exposed. She says she's busy. She needs space. The timing isn't right. On the surface, those statements sound clean and reasonable. And yes, they may be partially true, but they're often not the whole truth. The deeper truth sounds more like this. I didn't expect to care this much. And now that I do, I feel unsettled. For many women, admitting emotional depth feels like stepping into open air without knowing if someone will catch them. That is uncomfortable. That is risky. So logic steps in. Logic creates structure. Logic slows things down. Logic gives her something solid to stand on when emotions feel unpredictable. Don't argue with her reasons. Don't rush to dismantle her logic point by point. That only proves you are listening to her words, but missing her emotional state. When a man debates her explanations, he thinks he is solving a problem. He is not. He is increasing her need to protect herself. At the same time, don't withdraw completely. Don't interpret her seriousness as rejection. A woman who feels nothing does not explain. She fades. She goes quiet. She disappears without analysis. Explanation is effort. Explanation means she still cares about how this unfolds. That is important. When she talks about boundaries, pacing, expectations, understand what is happening. She is trying to regulate the emotional speed, not because she wants less connection, because she feels more than she anticipated. When feelings accelerate, fear often follows. Fear of losing control, fear of misjudging you, fear of investing deeply and being left standing alone. Be grounded. That is your role. Stay steady without becoming cold. Stay emotionally present without demanding access to parts of her she is not ready to share. Emotional intelligence is strength. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot force her openness. You can control your reaction. That is where your power lives. Don't pressure her with dramatic reassurance. Don't demand clarity she cannot yet articulate. Sometimes she doesn't fully understand her own emotional shift. She only knows it feels bigger than she expected. Logic becomes her translator when feelings feel too raw to name. Conversations may become more restrained during this phase, less playful, more structured. That does not automatically signal loss of attraction. It often signals internal conflict. She is balancing desire with caution. That is human. That is real. But be clear, patience does not mean endless waiting. Understanding does not mean tolerating confusion without limits. Watch her consistency. Watch her effort. If she continues to communicate, continues to engage, continues to explain, she is still invested. If effort disappears entirely, accept that reality with dignity. A strong man does not chase clarity through pressure. He creates safety through stability. He listens without trying to fix. He observes without overreacting. He allows space without collapsing into insecurity. Behind her calm reasoning may be a woman who feels deeply, but is testing whether it is safe to show that depth. She is not slamming the door. She is standing behind it, hand on the handle, deciding whether to open it further. Your job is not to push the door. Your job is to remain the kind of presence that makes opening it feel safe. Be steady. Be patient. Be self-controlled. That is how you win in love. Not through force, not through argument, but through quiet strength that does not flinch when emotions become complex. 9. She slows down physical or emotional escalation, not because attraction faded, but because it intensified. This is where many men become confused. Things feel strong. Chemistry is present. Emotional closeness increases. And suddenly, she wants to slow down. She may suggest taking things step by step. She may reduce physical intensity. She may create boundaries that weren't there before. Most men interpret this as cooling interest. Wrong. Often, it is the opposite. When attraction is casual, speed feels safe. There is little to lose. But when connection feels meaningful, speed feels dangerous. Slowing down becomes a way to protect something she values. She is not rejecting the connection. She is protecting its potential. As the philosopher Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." But bravery in love requires emotional security. If she senses depth forming, she may slow the pace to ensure the foundation is stable before going further. Don't take slowing down as a personal insult. Don't respond with frustration. Don't withdraw affection to punish her caution. That reaction confirms her fear that closeness equals instability. Instead, recognize what is happening beneath the surface. She wants sustainability, not intensity alone. She wants alignment, not just attraction. There is a difference between someone pulling away emotionally and someone pacing the connection wisely. Watch her effort. If she still communicates, still invests time, still shows care, the connection is alive. She is not retreating. She is regulating. Modern dating often glorifies fast chemistry, quick attachment, instant passion. But long-term bonds are built differently. They require pacing. They require emotional safety. They require two people who can tolerate tension without forcing resolution. If she slows down, match her pace without losing your center. Keep showing up. Keep leading calmly. Keep your life purposeful. Attraction does not die from patience. It dies from pressure. Understand this final principle. When a woman protects the pace of a connection, she is often protecting her heart and the possibility of something real. So, don't rush what is forming. Don't mistake caution for doubt. Stability outperforms speed every time. Master patience. Master composure. Master yourself. That is how you build something that lasts. Here's the honest truth most women won't say directly to you. When a woman pulls away out of fear, it is rarely because she's unsure about you. It's because she's starting to see a future in her mind. And that future suddenly feels heavy with risk. She imagines shared holidays, deeper conversations, maybe even permanence. And with that vision comes vulnerability. The higher the hope, the greater the fall might feel. That is what most men misunderstand. They see distance and assume disinterest. They see hesitation and assume rejection. Don't jump to that conclusion. A woman who feels nothing doesn't hesitate. She leaves cleanly. No confusion. No mixed signals. No internal struggle. Silence is easy when there's no emotional investment. But a woman who is emotionally invested and afraid, she moves back and forth. One day she's warm, present, leaning in. The next day she's quiet, slightly distant, almost guarded. It looks inconsistent. It feels frustrating. But it is not random. It's her heart trying to protect itself while still wanting you close. She is managing two forces at once, desire and self-preservation. Caring deeply makes a woman feel powerful and exposed at the same time. Powerful because she feels connected. Exposed because now you matter. And when you matter, you can hurt her. That realization alone can trigger a subtle retreat. Not because she doubts you, because she fears how much she now cares. What you do in these moments matters more than anything else. Not your charm, not your looks, not your clever words. Your emotional steadiness. That is the test. Be grounded. Be calm. Don't chase. Don't punish. Don't disappear to teach her a lesson. That reaction comes from fear, not strength. Most men lose women not because they weren't enough, but because they reacted from fear instead of understanding. They felt the shift and panicked. They demanded answers. They pushed for clarity. They tried to force certainty when what she needed was safety. Understand this clearly. Emotional hesitation is not rejection. It is often attachment mixed with anxiety. When you pressure her during that phase, you confirm her fear. When you remain steady, you calm it. That is the difference. You must become the emotional anchor, not another wave in a storm. Ask yourself a better question. Did I create a space where she could feel without fear? Or did I make her feel like caring was a liability? Did she feel safe being vulnerable with me? Or did she sense that any uncertainty would be judged, analyzed, or challenged? Don't label her as confusing. Don't call her inconsistent. Be curious instead. Confusion often means she is processing real emotion. Inconsistency often means she is protecting something valuable, her heart. Here's the deeper psychology. When a woman begins imagining a future with you, her brain also calculates potential loss. The more meaningful you become, the more she has to lose. That awareness can trigger distance, even when her feelings are growing stronger. It's not logical. It's protective. Your role is not to fix her fear. Your role is to not amplify it. Stay present. Keep your behavior consistent. Let your actions communicate stability. That is what creates long-term trust. And if you've been in that situation, when things felt right and suddenly she pulled back, reflect before reacting. Did you escalate tension? Did you withdraw completely? Or did you hold your ground calmly? I respect men who want to understand, not control. Control creates resistance. Understanding creates connection. If this message resonates with you, think about your past experiences. Were there signs you noticed too late? Moments where you mistook fear for indifference? Growth begins when you stop reacting impulsively and start responding wisely. Be the man who doesn't crumble when emotions get real. Be the man who doesn't panic at temporary distance. That steadiness is rare. And rare qualities build lasting connections.